Chapter 4675. Coo. As the golden-winged great rock spoke, its abdomen suddenly emitted a strange sound. Then, the golden-winged great rock opened its mouth again. Woo! A demonic aura mixed with purplish gold rushed out, piercing through the void and directly piercing into the shell of a strange insect that was several feet large. The demonic chi pierced into the strange insect's metallic shell like a needle. However, when the strange insect suddenly expanded, and a dark green mist surged out, Xiaohua shook his head. Sure enough, the strange insect instantly grew 10 times larger. The dark green mist swirled around the strange insect for a moment, but the strange insect's body didn't shrink at all. Chirp chirp. The strange insect hissed. Its 2 long hind legs drew a line in the air, and the entire body of the strange insect disappeared. At this moment, a miserable shriek sounded. On the side of the origin formation in the distance, a somewhat absent-minded immortal soldier was split in half. After the miserable shriek, the strange insect that was several dozen feet long loftily appeared on the head of the immortal soldier's corpse. The tip of the strange insect's tail had already reached out from the void and pierced towards the corpse's heart. Damn it! The golden-winged great rock cursed inwardly when he saw that his demonic chi was more effective than the power of the stars and moon. Then, an obscure power of the stars and moon appeared near the strange insect and pierced into it like a sharp awl. Boom! The strange insect was annihilated, leaving not even a corpse behind. My demon race's demonic chi, and even dragon chi, might be more effective than normal heaven and earth's essence chi against this strange insect. The profound armored pentahorn dragon smiled and said, "The rock sage's probing is extremely effective. In the future, when my 1,000 demons sacred grounds demon race and the dragon race of the dragon island fight against these strange insects, you must be careful." Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted and said softly, "Let me give it a try." Following his chanting, the Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his palms. Whoosh! A cluster of red lotus karmic fire flickered, and the power of samsara landed on a few strange insects. Boom! The karmic fire of the red lotus immediately ignited the strange insect's body. Chirp chirp. The strange insect hissed as if it was in pain. Xiaohua and the others were overjoyed when they saw this and were about to take a closer look. However, at this moment, the green mist gushed out of the strange insect's shell again. The red lotus karmic fire was immediately extinguished. However, after the karmic fire was extinguished, it did not disappear. Instead, it turned into a scarlet viscous substance that seeped into the strange insect's shell. The strange insect grew bigger again. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha raised his eyebrows and exclaimed in surprise. He knew that if this strange insect could even devour the power of samsara, the Thunder Sound Temple would have no means of restraining it. Kill! The Thunderbolt Immortal let out a low roar. With a point of his finger, sword-like thunderbolts slayed the strange bug on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Oh! Xiaohua looked at the Thunderbolt Immortal strangely. If it was in the past, the Thunderbolt Immortal might consider for himself or the Fortune Gate's disciples. However, he would never consider for others. Now, the Thunderbolt Immortal actually thought that the Dipankara archaic Buddha was the Buddha Lord and that it was inappropriate for him to commit murder. Instead, he killed the strange insect on behalf of the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Wasn't this the sign of his awakening? However, after the Thunderbolt Immortal killed the strange insect, he retracted his hand and calmly stood at the side. Would you like to give it a try? Xiaohua looked at the heavenly man and smiled. Your 3 lights augmenting thunder might be the nemesis of these strange insects. That's right. I'll go take a look. Hearing this, the heavenly man smiled proudly and flew out of the mountain peak. Seeing the heavenly man fly out, a swarm of strange insects immediately pounced on him. These strange insects emitted extremely faint yet powerful ripples that surrounded the heavenly man. The heavenly man's expression didn't change. He roared towards the sky and revealed his 3 heads and 6 arms. Roar! The three heads opened their mouths and shot out 3 light pillars. Pa 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 pa. Wherever the light pillars passed, tens of thousands of strange insects would swell and explode. Of course, they only swell. Not a single one of them died because of the difference in the true chi contained in the light pillars. Gotcha. Seeing that the 3 light pillars had no effect, the heavenly man couldn't help but feel furious. He raised his 6 arms at the same time, and dozens of different colored lightning balls appeared out of thin air and landed around him. Rumble. Amidst loud explosions, the strange insects that pounced on the heavenly man were all killed. Xiao Hua could clearly see that these strange insects had all exploded from the swell. Motherfucker, this is really strange. The heavenly man cursed. His figure flashed, and he landed next to the throne of creation again. He said, even my method is useless. Then in these 3 continents. Where is the origin energy of heaven and earth that these strange insects can't devour? Seeing that the heavenly man's method was also useless, Xiao Hua couldn't help but feel a chill in his heart. No one knew better than him that the heavenly man's method came from the God realm. The divine ability he cultivated was from the heavenly man clan. If his method couldn't easily kill these strange insects, then in the 3 continents, there really wasn't any method that could easily kill these strange insects. Maybe. Xiao Hua thought to himself. Only soul cultivation methods can be used. Thinking of soul cultivation methods, Xiao Hua smiled bitterly. He had encountered these strange insects when he was condensing his nascent soul in the void. Although Xiao Hua was only a nascent soul at that time, and the strange insects were only a few feet long, Xiao Hua had already used the lightning flash and thunder roll technique, and the lightning bolts activated by the green seal characters were also swallowed by the strange insects. Now that Xiao Hua had reached great success in soul cultivation, he could easily kill these strange insects, and even soul cultivation methods could easily kill them, but he couldn't find the insect's weakness from the root. Let's give it a try. Xiao Hua didn't give up. He waved his hand, and the soul cultivator's 3 corpses in thunder fell down. Rumble. The strange insects in the distance were killed, but there were no signs of them being destroyed upon contact. Obviously, this was not Xiao Hua's method. Then Ao Qian, Mystic Armored Pentaceratops, Maitreya Buddha, and the others all used their own secret techniques to investigate, but unfortunately, it was not ideal. Take a look at my method. Immortal Emperor Gaochen looked at the helpless crowd, and finally said, after my Immortal Palace obtained the 5 energies origin technique, I also benefited greatly. The 5 energies of Confucian cultivators are the foundation of heaven and earth, the foundation of humanity, so it must be different from ordinary heaven and earth origin energy. Your Majesty's words are reasonable. Xiao Hua flattered him and said with a smile, I will wait for your Majesty's method. Humph. Immortal Emperor Gaochen raised his hand and patted the crown on his head. Boom. A 5-colored energy pillar gushed out. Then, the 5-colored energy pillar brushed down from the sky and turned into hundreds of thousands of tiny energy pillars. These energy pillars were like needles that pierced into the bodies of the strange insects. Woo! When the 5-colored energy entered the bodies of the strange insects, the bodies of the strange insects immediately swelled up. Moreover, the moment they swelled up, some were dark green, some were like gray fog, and some were like gray fog. Boom! The bodies of these strange insects swelled up a lot, and then they all exploded. Sigh. Xiao Hua's eyes originally lit up, but the joy immediately disappeared. He understood in his heart that even though Immortal Emperor Gaochen condensed the 5 Chi's origin Chi pillar to a very fine degree, it was still the terrifying power condensed within the Chi needle that was able to explode the strange insect, and not the 5-colored true Chi. Your Majesty. Xiao Hua said, what I thought was just a whimsical thought. How could there be different types of energy within the same realm? This matter. Let's not talk about it anymore. How about this, let's see how the strength of these strange insects is distributed. Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and replied, I also feel that using different types of energy to kill these strange insects is a bit unimaginable and too difficult. We should use normal methods. As for the difference in strength that Master Xiaohua mentioned, the Sun family and the others already had some judgment. Sun Jian, come over and tell us. Yes, Your Majesty. Sun Jian received the order and flew over. He bowed and said, Seniors, according to what junior and junior subordinates found out, these strange insect strength should be divided according to the size of their bodies. Currently, the insects besieging the Jade Lake are mostly several feet long. The strength of these strange insects is around the 5th stage of the origin energy of our 3 continents. Hiss. When the golden-winged roc heard this, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air and said in shock, Sun Jian, you're not wrong, right? These several feet long strange insects have the strength of our demon race's star-plucking realm? Alright, Rock Sage knows. It's exactly like this. Sun Jian turned to the golden-winged roc and said respectfully, back then, when Junior's origin energy was at the lower stage of the 5th stage, I encountered a several feet long strange insect. At that time, Junior was almost unable to defeat that strange insect. How can this be? The mystic armored Pentaceratops was also surprised. So many strange insects. If they were placed in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, wouldn't our demon race be defeated? Not only that. Sun Jian said again, these strange insects advance by devouring all kinds of energy. The time it takes to advance is extremely short. As long as the energy doesn't make the strange insects explode, these strange insects can advance. Moreover, using normal methods. Even if the strange insects are torn apart, these torn parts can rely on the energy they devour to recover into several strange insects. What about the other sizes? Xiaohua had already expected this, but he still asked in a low voice. Sun Jian replied, a foot long is an inch long. Strange insects several inches long have the strength of a 4th stage origin energy. Strange insects less than an inch long are just black dots, and these black dots Junior has also tested, they have the strength of a 2nd or 3rd stage origin energy. An army of hundreds of millions of 2nd stage origin energy. Thinking about the densely packed black dots he saw in the space, Xiaohua's heart turned cold. He thought with some despair, even if all of my Fortune Gate's disciples come out, even if all of my Fortune Gate's 9 elders come out together, even if all of the 3 continents human race and demonic beast race, the 4 seas dragon race and sea tribe, I'm afraid they still won't be able to exterminate this world-destroying insect army. How could Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others not know about Xiaohua's thoughts? The various supremes' expressions changed again. Sun Jian looked at Xiaohua's gloomy face and said, a foot long is a foot long. Strange insects several feet long have the strength of a 6th stage origin energy. Strange insects several hundred feet long have the strength of a 7th stage origin energy. As for 1,000 feet long and 1,000 feet long strange insects, Junior has not seen them, so I do not dare to make a judgment. So what if they are 1,000 feet long and 1,000 feet long strange insects? Dongfang Qianghao sneered, they are nothing more than 8th or 9th stage origin energy. Could there be a 10,000 feet long strange insect? Xiaohua looked at Dongfang Qianghao and said with a smile, Dongfang family head, aren't you too optimistic? Previously, we didn't know how these strange insects advanced. We thought that they cultivated the same way as us, and that every time they advanced, there would only be 1 in 10,000. Thus, when we reached the higher levels, there were fewer and fewer of them. But now, we understand that these strange insects advance by devouring true energy, and there are no bottlenecks during their advancement. In other words, as long as there is enough true energy, every black dot can advance to 1,000 feet long. They can become monsters that can stand shoulder to shoulder with us 9th stage origin energy experts. How is that possible? Dongfang Qianghao still shook his head and said in disbelief, these strange insects are from outside the realm, but the place they came from is at most similar to the realm of our 3 continents. This old man does not believe that a realm can have countless experts that have reached the peak of that realm. Who? Just as Dongfang Qianghao was shaking his head, a cold wind appeared out of nowhere, and an indescribable aura of destruction came from somewhere in the void. Even someone as strong as Xiao Hua could not help but tremble. Not good. Thunderbolt Immortal roared, "It seems like something powerful is coming." Xiao Hua stood up and took out the Kunlun mirror without hesitation, and said to Princess Xia, "Return to the Kunlun Immortal realm and hide for a while." Okay. Princess Xia nodded, but said, however, Bai An is at the Immortal Palace, you have to think of a way to ensure her safety. Empress. Xiao Hua thought and hurriedly transmitted, "Where is Bai An? I will let Thunderbolt Immortal bring her back." Bai An is with Qing and Miao Miao. The East Sea Empress expression also changed slightly, and her eyes flashed with a clear light as she looked around and answered casually. Hearing the two words, Qing, Xiao Hua gritted his teeth and glared at the East Sea Empress, then put Princess Xia into the space. It was also at this moment that a dark ray of light suddenly appeared in the sky. With a swoosh, it struck the mountain where the Immortal Palace was located. This ray of light came too suddenly. Even though Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the East Sea Empress were on high alert, they still couldn't guard against it. Boom. Where the light landed, there was a huge explosion, and the scroll seemed to be torn apart by a giant hand. Layer upon layer of cracks, the inscriptions on the armor mixed with a five-colored light gushed out from the cracks. GG. With an ear-piercing screech, a huge mouth stretched out from the void, and swallowed the light and the inscriptions on the armor. Then, two pitch-black eyes appeared in the sky, and finally, a strange insect that was several thousand feet long, like a huge flying boat, slowly appeared. The moment the strange insect appeared, a powerful aura overflowed from its body, and filled the entire Jade Lake. Its 3,000 feet long hind legs slightly slashed in the air, and the broken peony bushes were instantly cut in half. Seeing the strange insect devouring the scroll mountain with a ka sound, Xiao Hua suddenly came to a realization. Thinking of the vision he saw when he entered this space, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Damn it, this Xiao understands now. This Lingyun Side Palace did not originally exist in this space. It was because Immortal Emperor Gaochen wanted to hold the Jade Lake gathering here that he created this space to store the Lingyun Side Palace. Xian also made it clear that the Jade Lake was only an immortal imperial treasure controlled by the Imperial Empress, and it also needed to absorb the righteous energy in this place. The five-colored scene I saw when I entered was the scene of the Jade Lake and the Lingyun Side Palace absorbing the righteous energy from the void. These strange insects love to eat true energy, and the righteous energy in this space is naturally their favorite food. It is also because of the Jade Lake gathering that these strange insects were attracted here. Kill. Seeing the strange insect swallow the scroll mountain and the entire space trembling, Heavenly King Qin Yu did not dare to be careless and quickly ordered the soldiers to attack. Unfortunately, before he could finish his words, a chill ran down his spine. He did not hold any hope as his body swayed and disappeared into thin air. Pluff. The moment his body disappeared, a huge tail appeared in the distance, and it instantly shattered the entire image. Ah! A few thousand feet away, Heavenly King Qin Yu screamed as he flew out from the void. His armor had been shattered, and there was even blood flowing from his mouth and nose. The strange insect had struck the phantom, and even Heavenly King Qin Yu had been injured. Heavenly King Qin Yu managed to dodge the attack, but the immortal soldiers and generals not far away were not so lucky. The tail pierced through Heavenly King Qin Yu's illusory figure and charged into the origin formation formed by the immortal soldiers and generals. The origin formation collapsed upon contact, and thousands of immortal soldiers were instantly killed. Moreover, after the soldiers were killed, their bodies immediately withered. Humph. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was sitting on his golden throne. He coldly scowled and suddenly slammed his golden throne. Boom! The golden throne emitted layers of golden light and flew straight up into the sky. Dang! The vast void bell that had disappeared earlier reappeared. With a loud bang, a shadow of several thousand feet in size fell down from the sky. Rumble, rumble, rumble. The shadow completely covered the body of the strange insect and issued loud explosions. The void where the strange insect was completely shattered by the sound of the bell. The body of the strange insect was also destroyed inch by inch and turned into nothingness. Looking at the almost chaotic space, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen proudly said, "A 9th-level origin energy insect. Is only a so-so." Boom! Before he could finish speaking, a loud explosion came from behind him. The golden throne that Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was sitting on was hit by a huge black tail. The powerful force and the sharpness of the tail that could pierce through the laws of space immediately flipped Immortal Emperor Go-Chen and his golden throne over. No way, right? Not to mention Xiao Hua's group, even Immortal Emperor Go-Chen himself was shocked. The body of the strange insect that was killed by the vast void bell appeared behind Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's back. Dong! At this time, the vast void bell let out another loud bang. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen looked up in horror and saw that the back leg of the strange insect that was like a guillotine had disappeared into the void. It actually went through the maze of the Jade Lake and struck the vast void bell. Inside the bell, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen could clearly see that a deep crack was carved into the surface of the vast void bell. The inscriptions on the bell were split into 2 halves. Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's heart ached. He cursed and quickly hid the vast void bell into the depths of the origin formation. Then, he reached out and grabbed the Emperor's sword at his waist. However, he only held it for a moment before letting it go. He knew that the Emperor's sword was extremely powerful because it contained the fate of the human race, the fate of the Confucian cultivators. This fate was useful against the human race and the demon race. However, if it was used against the strange insect, it might not be effective. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen pondered for a while and looked at the Eastern Ocean Queen. The Eastern Ocean Queen understood his intention. The 2 of them slapped the phantom of the golden throne at the same time. Boom! 2 rays of golden light shot out from the golden throne. Just like how it killed Xie Xian, the golden light condensed into the phantom of the immortal slaying platform in the sky. Boom! When the immortal slaying platform transformed into 100,000 feet long radiance and descended, everyone held their breaths and waited for the might of this slash. Puff! The guillotine's radiance and shadow fell on the strange insect's body. The strange insect's body was immediately flattened and couldn't resist at all. Excellent! The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted, thinking that the strange insect had been killed. Xiao Hua squinted his eyes and reminded, "World Lord, don't forget that some of these strange insects' bodies are extremely hard, while some of them are especially soft and tough." Sure enough, although the strange insect was slashed into 2 halves by the immortal slaying platform's guillotine, just like how Xiao Hua's wishful rod struck the strange insect, its tough body couldn't be broken into 2 halves. Go! The Eastern Ocean Queen glanced at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. The 2 of them scolded at the same time. One of them spat out a mouthful of dragon-shaped true qi, while the other spat out a mouthful of phoenix-shaped true qi. When these 2 true qis fell on the immortal slaying platform's phantom, the phantom became even more solid. Bam! Finally, where the guillotine landed, the huge strange insect was slashed into 2 halves. Chirp chirp. After the strange insect was slashed apart, it was different from the other strange insects. It rolled around in mid-air as if it was in pain. "I'll lend you a hand, Your Majesty." Seeing this, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He slapped the top of his head, and a huge hand formed by tricolored thunderbolts descended, grabbing the other half of the strange insect. This thunderbolt hand was slightly different from the one Xiao Hua had used previously. When this hand descended, it instantly sank into the strange insect's body. Boom! Just as gray mist surged out from the other half of the strange insect's body, its body only expanded by 30% before it began to explode. He understood what was going on. He smiled and said, "Then, I'll lend you a hand, Your Majesty." As he spoke, Aoe chanted the heavenly dragon art. Balls of light the size of a wicker basket appeared outside the other half of the strange insect's body, revolving around it like fireflies. Fall. As Aoe chanted a mantra, all the balls of light fell into the other half of the strange insect's body. As expected, the other half of the strange insect's body exploded as well. Namo Mithreya. Good. Namo Mithreya clasped his palms together and said, I understand. This strange insect might have the strength of a 9th grade essence force. Our 3 continents don't have any spiritual items that can make it explode. However, if it's cut into 2 or even 4 halves, and then take advantage of the fact that it hasn't recovered, we can still use a spiritual item of an 8th grade essence force to make it explode. That's right. Namo Mithreya is right. Xiaohua said with a smile. Moreover, this agreement is only for low-grade strange insects. Just as Xiaohua finished speaking, his expression suddenly changed. He didn't have time to remind anyone. With a whoosh, he disappeared from the throne of creation. Of course, at the same time that he disappeared, the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt spiritual master also disappeared. On the entire Dao Sect's lightning mountain, only the throne of creation and the Grand Mist Ancestor, who was sitting on the black and white praying mat beside it, were left. The Grand Mist Ancestor naturally noticed Xiao Hua's strange movements. He knew that something was wrong, but before he could teleport, a huge black shadow blocked the entire mountain peak. An inexplicable confinement force sealed the space. Boom. 2 pitch-black blade lights slashed down from the sky. Not good. Sensing the aura of death under the blade lights, the Grand Mist Ancestor cursed inwardly. In his heart, he hated Xiao Hua to the bone. He already firmly believed that Xiao Hua deliberately didn't remind him. The Grand Mist Ancestor remained motionless as he formed a series of seals with his hands. Black and white halos appeared in the space around him, and the moment these halos appeared, the Grand Mist Ancestor's 2 side-like hind legs slashed down. Swoosh. One of the hind legs landed on the throne of creation. The entire throne emitted lightning, blocking the light shadow. However, the throne was also lifted off the lightning mountain by the hind legs and fell into the jade lake below the mountain peak. As for the other hind leg, it naturally slashed into the black and white halo around the Grand Mist Ancestor. However, the strange thing was that the black and white halo was split in half. After the light shadow passed, the black and white halos merged back together. The Grand Mist Ancestor was standing inside the halo, unharmed. Of course, the Grand Mist Ancestor did not dare to stay for long after dodging the calamity. His figure flashed, and with a flash of black and white light, he forcefully broke through the space shackles and teleported to another place. At this time, a strange insect that was even more ferocious than the previous one slowly appeared in the sky south of the Jade Lake. Damn it. Xiao Hua, Tianren, and Lightning Daoist appeared high in the sky above the Jade Lake. The 3 of them surrounded the strange insect, and Xiao Hua couldn't help cursing inwardly when he sensed the mysterious aura emitted by the strange insect. This Xiao boasts that his luck is extremely good, but every time this Xiao comes across a strange insect, how bad is this Xiao's luck? Let's not talk about it previously. This Xiao is now a Daoist Gates Grand Ascension stage expert, standing at the peak of the 3 continents. Why does this strange insect seem to be more powerful than this Xiao? As for the strange insect, it ignored Xiao Hua and the Grand Mist Ancestor's attempt to escape after striking down the Throne of Fortune. Instead, it waved its saw-like tentacles again. The 2 tentacles were sharper than any magic treasure, and they landed on the Lightning Mountain Peak. In an instant, the entire mountain peak collapsed. Then, the strange insect opened its mouth and swallowed the collapsed mountain peak. No. Xiao Hua's eyes narrowed as he watched the huge mountain disappear at a speed visible to the naked eye. He said in a low voice, "We can't let this strange insect swallow anymore. This strange insect's strength has already reached the 9th grade of origin energy. If it evolves again, who in the 3 continents can subdue it?" Fellow Taoists. With a plan in mind, Xiao Hua hurriedly said, wait until I execute a divine ability to destroy this strange insect. Then you two fellow Taoists kill it. Before Tian Ren and the lightning Taoist could reply, boom boom boom. A series of sounds came from the void around the Jade Lake. Several blade-like black shadows flashed through the air and landed on the Buddhist lotus, scroll, and other mountain peaks. There was even a huge tail that stretched out from the Jade Lake. Damn it! The golden-winged great peng roared as its body flashed with the brilliance of the moon and stars. Its sharp claws attacked the newly appeared strange insect. Namo Maitreya Buddha. The world's sovereign didn't dare to be careless. He formed a Buddhist mudra with both hands and channeled the power of faith. It turned into countless heavenly flowers and Buddhist light balls to stop another strange insect. Immortal Emperor Go Chen, the East Sea Empress, O.E., and Ao Qian didn't stop. They used their divine abilities to deal with the strange insects that were tens of thousands of feet long. In just a moment, the entire Jade Lake was in chaos. Everything was crushed by the strange insects. Even the previously hidden outline of the Lingyun Side Palace was revealed in the void. Moreover, this outline had been shattered long ago. Clearly, it was destroyed by several strange insects that were tens of thousands of feet long. Not only that, these strange insects were too powerful. Wherever they went, nothing remained. Every time they waved their tentacles and hind legs, they could cut through the void. Wherever they cut through, the immortal soldiers and generals were easily killed. There was no way to avoid them. Although Sun Jian's strength hadn't reached the 9th grade of essence energy, he had the void-seeing eye. Therefore, he had already opened the void-seeing eye between his eyebrows and carefully observed the changes in the surrounding space. Of course, his void-seeing eye wasn't enough to completely detect the traces of the strange insects. However, this technique alone was enough to save his life. Now, seeing that even the sovereigns were panicking, he didn't hesitate to give the order. Retreat. Generals, retreat from the Lingyun Side Palace. This was true monarch Qing Yuan. Even Heavenly King Qing Yu didn't dare to give such an order in the Jade Lake gathering. When the immortal soldiers and generals heard this order, they were all relieved. They hurriedly used their divine abilities to teleport out. When Heavenly King Qing Yu saw this, he hurriedly shouted, "Generals, maintain the formation and retreat. These strange insects came from the void. If you teleport out, you'll encounter even more strange insects." When the immortal soldiers and generals heard this, they were all alarmed. They hurriedly got into a battle formation and slowly flew out. It wasn't that they hadn't experienced blood formations on the battlefield before. However, when faced with such cruel and cold-blooded insects, they couldn't help but panic. Xiaohua didn't have the time to use the delusion breaker eye to see how many strange insects there were in the void. This was because it was completely meaningless. After he gave the order to the celestial being and the lightning immortal, he immediately waved his hands. Kacha. Layers of thunder mist appeared in the sky. Countless vital chi of heaven and earth turned into crystals and fell into it. Chirp chirp. When Xiaohua activated his magic power, it immediately attracted the attention of several strange insects. Other than the strange insects that were devouring the lightning mountain, the others also stopped devouring. They raised their huge heads, and a strange color appeared in their black eyes. Xiaohua didn't dare to be the slightest bit negligent. He used the unstoppable thunder. 5 Qi righteous thunder, 9 heavens divine thunder, 3 corpses yin thunder, Xianming demonic thunder, and triple light amplifying thunder mixed together to form a huge lightning hand. It brought with it a kind of heaven and earth will and suddenly fell down. When the strange insect saw this, it didn't know how to dodge at all. It let out a chirp chirp sound. This chirp sounded as if it was excited. Wherever the sound passed, the space began to collapse. Then, the strange insect's legs kicked, and it pounced towards the lightning hand. Under the lightning hand, the power of thunder and lightning originally sealed the space within 10,000 feet. However, this sealed space seemed to be nothing in the eyes of the strange insect. In a moment, it had already rushed under the lightning hand. However, the strange insect seemed to know the power of the lightning hand. Its 2 tentacles, 1 hind leg, and the tip of its tail all stretched out. They entered the void from 4 directions and attacked the lightning hand. Xiaohua's lightning hand was now extremely powerful. There were few cultivators in the 3 continents who could withstand it. Even the strange insect was no exception. Rumble. The lightning hand fell. Not only did it shatter the space, but even the strange insect's tentacles, hind leg, and tail were also beaten dry. When the lightning hand fell on the strange insect's body, the strange insect's body first emitted a strange luster as if it was resisting. However, after a few breaths, the entire body immediately became incomparably soft and quickly collapsed. It seemed that the strange insect was unable to resist the lightning hand. Similar to the attack of Immortal Emperor Go Chen's golden throne, the lightning hand suddenly crushed the strange insect's body. Humph. Xiaohua already knew the strange insect's tricks like the back of his hand. Seeing that the strange insect's body had reached its limit, he coldly snorted. His gaze slightly swept over the distant Grand Mist ancestor who was quietly watching him display his techniques in the sky. His hand's seals slightly changed. Swoosh. The fury of thunder, which had been hidden inside the lightning hand since a long time ago, was activated. A hidden blade of lightning descended from the lightning hand. Swoosh. The fury of thunder was indeed formidable. As soon as it appeared, it immediately split the shriveled strange insect into 2 halves. GG. Just like before, the strange insect rolled and hissed as it fell towards the Jade Lake's waves. It seemed like it wanted to swallow the waves. Kill. Similarly, Tianren and Lightning Immortal did not hesitate. Just as Xiaohua was about to make a move, both of them attacked at the same time. Boom, boom. As expected, the 1,000-feet-long strange insect that was split into 2 halves was easily killed by the 2 Fortune Gate Masters. However, whether it was Xiaohua, Tianren, or Lightning Immortal, all 3 of them felt heavy in their hearts. They did not feel the joy of victory, nor did they feel the guilt of winning with superior numbers. Instead, they raised their heads to look at the other sex venerables fighting with the strange insects. After a short while, Xiaohua somewhat understood. Although these strange insects had the strength of 9th grade origin energy, they had not reached the peak of 9th grade origin energy. At most, they were only at the mid-level of 9th grade origin energy. Logically speaking, mid-level 9th grade origin energy shouldn't be a match for the other sex venerables. They should be able to kill them easily. However, the reason why the 3 continents cultivators, whether it was the human race, demonic beast race, or dragon race, was able to reach the peak of 9th grade origin energy was because they had a breakthrough in the space law. There was no need to talk about the human race. Confucian cultivators ascended with the red clouds, Tao sects ascended with the white sun, and Buddhist sects were guided by the heavens. The demonic beast race and dragon race both broke through the void and relied on the space law. Among Xiaohua's current abilities, there were many times where he didn't need to use any magic spells. As long as he used the space law, he could produce effects that were more powerful than ordinary magic spells. But today, the various sex venerables were facing the world-destroying strange insects. These strange insects came from the void and fed on the space law. Previously, when Immortal Emperor Gochen activated the vast void bell, the strange insects also collapsed along with the space. Moreover, the strange insects' bodies did not suffer any damage. Therefore, when facing these strange insects, the various sex venerables could only use limited methods. They also couldn't reveal too much of their peak 9th grade origin energy. Of course, venerables were venerables after all. Although there were more than 10,000 feet of strange insects, as long as they put in some effort, these strange insects would be wiped out in the time it took to brew a cup of tea. At this moment, the entire Jade Lake was in a mess. It was no longer as beautiful as before. There were still many strange insects flying around wantonly in the space. Although the Lingyun side palace did not collapse, its tattered state made Immortal Emperor Gochen feel ashamed and angry. Damn it. Seeing that everyone was silent, the golden-winged great roc shouted first before anyone could speak. We were discussing how to kill the strange insect here, and this strange insect gave us a head-on blow. If I didn't know that these strange insects came here from the Lingyun side palace's pure and noble energy, I would have suspected that these strange insects got the news beforehand and formed a team to launch a surprise attack. At this point, the golden-winged great roc suddenly stopped. His eyes flashed with a golden light as he looked at the various venerables above the Jade Lake in disbelief. He seemed to have thought of something. Sage Rock. Immortal Emperor Gochen said, "You're a great sage of the demon clan. Do you think these strange insects have a leader?" The golden-winged great roc seemed to have understood and nodded. There's no need to talk about this. Not to mention the sky-devouring demon clan, even the featherless demon clan, as long as there are groups of them. We'll have a leader. Of course, I'm from the Flying Feather clan, so I don't know the exact situation of the insect clan. In the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm, there has never been a great sage of the insect clan who could enter the Great Sage Palace. As for the featherless demon clan and the awakening of intelligence, maybe there was one. The golden-winged great roc's tone was uncertain. After all, no matter where in the 3 continents, the insect clan was the weakest. As for the strange insects, most of their intelligence was weak and did not know how to cultivate, so it was difficult for them to featherless demon clan and the awakening of intelligence. Insect clan? Hearing this, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He immediately thought of the spiritual realm in the space and the 10,000 demons realm outside the 3 continents. Of course, this saint's knowledge is limited to the 1,000 demons sacred realm. These world-destroying strange insects come from outside the realm, and their strength is close to the peak of the 3 continents. Perhaps there will be a leader? The golden-winged great roc added another, perhaps. That's impossible. The Pentaceratops shook its head. The demon clan that can featherless demon clan and the awakening of intelligence must have spiritual intelligence, just like how Buddhist disciples need the root of wisdom. Look at these strange insects, they are all fearless of death. How can they have any spiritual intelligence? Just now, even those strange insects that have reached the 9th level of essence power seem to only have vital chi in their eyes. They didn't dodge much when facing attacks. Hiss. Hearing this, Xiao Hua suddenly sucked in a breath of cold air as if he had a toothache. The scene of him fighting with the 2 strange insects immediately appeared in his mind. At that time, the strange insects were not as clumsy and ignorant as they were now. At that time, the strange insects were so ferocious and agile. Not good. Xiao Hua hurriedly shouted. These strange insects must have a leader. Moreover, the spiritual intelligence of this leader may not be any worse than mine. Chapter 4676. How is that possible? Dongfang Qianghao asked curiously, Master Xiao Lei, what do you mean by that? Xiao Hua hurriedly recounted his encounter with the 2 strange insects. In the end, he said, from what I've seen, these strange insects must have evolved recently. They devoured too much true energy and advanced too quickly. Not only are they unable to adapt to their bodies, but their intelligence is also unable to match their strength. That's why they didn't have much strength to retaliate against us. Also, take a look again. There aren't many bugs that are 100 feet or 1,000 feet between the bugs that are tens of feet long and the bugs that are tens of thousands of feet long. It must be because the king of strange bugs that hasn't shown up yet sensed our strength. That's why it gave up on the mid-sized bugs and directly sent the bugs that are tens of thousands of feet long. Taoist Xiao, you mean? The Grand Mist Ancestor was also dumbfounded. He said in shock, just now, these strange insects with strength of 9th level origin energy. We're just probing our strength? Xiao Hua's gaze swept across the various sovereigns and finally landed on the Grand Mist Ancestor. He said word by word, that's what I think. I hope I'm wrong. Chirp chirp. Suddenly, the soft cries of a strange insect rang out. Although it was soft and insignificant compared to the cries of insects in the entire space, it was clearly heard by all the sovereigns of the various sections. Even the innate divine restriction outside Xiao Hua's Ni-1 palace emitted waves of golden light. King of strange insects? Xiao Hua turned pale with fright and hurriedly looked towards the direction of the sound. However, even with Xiao Hua's strength, he couldn't find the direction of the king of strange insects in front of these strange insects. However, there was no need for Xiao Hua to search for it. After the chirping of the insects, a loud boom sounded out from above everyone's heads. Xiao Hua raised his head to look, only to see that the roof of the Lingyun side hall, which was like the dome of heaven, had already been split open. A seemingly small but abnormally sharp tentacle fell from the dome of heaven. Wherever the tentacle fell, space collapsed. All the heaven and earth origin energy, righteous qi, and other things were split in half. Even the light figure in space wasn't spared. Damn it! Immortal Emperor Go Chen was the first to be enraged. He glanced at the East Sea Empress and raised his hand to slap the phantom of the Golden Throne. The East Sea Empress was also displeased. She also activated the Golden Throne. The phantom of the immortal slaying platform appeared again and flew towards the saw-like tentacles. Kacha! The scythe of the immortal punishment platform slammed into the tentacle. After layers of space shattered, the tentacle also broke inch by inch. However, what shocked Immortal Emperor Go Chen was that the phantom of the immortal punishment platform also disappeared under the tentacle. What? What is the king of strange insect strength? Xiao Hua was also the immortal punishment platform, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's qi, the king of 10th level origin energy, the heavens, and the king canted acid. It's a 10th level origin energy origin energy origin. Dongziz's he had already prepared he, this is the it. Dong Fang Qiong had long been on guard. He saw the shadow falling from the sky, but it did not seem to have any sealing power. It was sharp and fast. How could he not know that it was one of the monster insect king's hind legs? Dong Fang Qiong didn't hesitate at all. He waved his hand and the Wuji apricot yellow flag fluttered in the air. As the innate Wuji flags fluttered in the air, golden lotuses gushed out and protected the space around him. Poof poof poof. The moment the lotuses appeared, the void began to explode. The golden lotuses in the sky were also shattered. How is this possible? Xiao Hua's heart was in his throat as he thought to himself, if the innate 5-element flags can't stop the king of strange insects, then what else can? Luckily, the monster king only managed to destroy one of the 10 waves of golden lotuses. Then, its sharp, pitch-black hind legs were revealed in the sky. The sharp leg that could easily split a mountain flashed a few times and disappeared into the void. Thank goodness. Xiao Hua didn't know if he was rejoicing for himself, Dongfang Qiong, or the beings of the 3 continents. He couldn't help but pat his chest. When Xiao Hua raised his hand, extreme fear rose from the bottom of his heart. He couldn't help but lower his head to look at the jade pool. Sai. When Xiao Hua saw the scene inside the jade lake, he turned pale with fright. The clear jade pool was covered by a layer of darkness. This layer of darkness wasn't a single piece. Instead, it was made up of hundreds or even thousands of small pieces of darkness. It was just like how the land of Lingyun Side Palace was surrounded by crisscrossing paths. In these small pitch-black pieces, there was a kind of extreme coldness and ruthlessness, and in this pitch-black darkness, Xiao Hua saw thousands of his own reflections. The king of strange insects' eyes. Xiao Hua immediately understood. Without hesitation, he moved his hands, and a thunderous hand appeared out of thin air and grabbed at the jade pool. The moment the thunderous hand appeared, the entire jade pool was imprisoned. Lightning mixed with the power of heaven and earth rushed toward the king of strange insects. However, to Xiao Hua's surprise, before the thunderous hand landed, the king of strange insects' eyes suddenly disappeared. The jade pool was still the jade pool, and the jade pool was still the jade pool. Damn it. Xiao Hua cursed in his heart. He slapped his forehead and opened his delusion breaker Dharma eye to look around. At this moment, the void was filled with black dots of various sizes. These black dots ranged from the size of ink dots to the size of hundreds of feet. They were all flying around like locusts. Although Xiao Hua could see clearly, it was impossible to find the black dots that were tens of thousands of feet large among these black dots. Xiao Hua was about to close his delusion breaker Dharma eye. Whoosh! Suddenly, a tail stinger that looked like a meteor streaked across the darkness and stabbed at a silver-white dragon body. Xiao Hua naturally knew that the silver-white dragon body belonged to Ao Qian, the Lord of the Eastern Sea. He hurriedly transmitted a message to warn him, but at this moment, a dragon throne, 2 golden thrones, and 2 pillars of light appeared in his delusion breaker Dharma eye. 2 dragon bodies flashed and rushed into the black dots. Obviously, Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others had also discovered the King of Strange Insects' tracks. When Xiao Hua saw that the supreme beings of the various sects had already begun to besiege him, he stopped transmitting his voice. However, just as he was about to close his Dharma eye, a blurry shadow suddenly flashed in another direction. Another King of Strange Insects? Xiao Hua shuddered and hurriedly looked in that direction. Unfortunately, the shadow was nowhere to be seen. Could it be that these 2 King of Strange Insects, one in the light and the other in the dark, are also plotting against us? The more Xiao Hua thought about it, the more likely it seemed. He didn't dare to transmit his message to Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others, fearing that the 2 King of Strange Insects would have some special spatial divine ability that could allow them to hear him. He only warned Celestial Being and the Lightning Immortal in his mind before he slightly narrowed his delusion breaker Dharma eye and pretended to attack the King of Strange Insects from all sides as he lunged out of the Jade Lake. At this moment, Ao Qian had already summoned the Dragon Throne, which turned into a golden dragon and blocked the tip of the King of Strange Insects' tail. Immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others used their divine abilities to attack the King of Strange Insects' shell. Swoosh! While Xiao Hua condensed a thunderous hand to grab the King of Strange Insects in the distant void, a black shadow as big as a mountain rushed out from the void in another direction of Ao Qian. It was the other King of Strange Insects that was hiding in the dark using its hind leg to attack Ao Qian's dragon body. The moment the hind leg appeared, Ao Qian's soul left his body. He roared and hurriedly used his dragon throne to block the attack. Unfortunately, the dragon avatar was already pierced by the King of Strange Insects' tail. How could he move the dragon avatar away? Helpless, Ao Qian swung his dragon tail in an attempt to use the toughness of his dragon body to break the King of Strange Insects' leg from the side. Just as Ao Qian's plan started, the King of Strange Insects' leg immediately changed direction and slashed towards Ao Qian's dragon tail. Don't panic, fellow Immortal Ao, I'll help you. Celestial Being and the Lightning Immortal suddenly turned around. One wielded a lightning spear while the other spat out a tricolored beam to attack the other King of Strange Insects' leg. Looking at Xiao Hua again, he didn't even teleport. Instead, lightning surged around his body and formed layers of lightning bolts. He actually executed the lightning escape technique and pounced at the other monster king in the void with lightning speed. Xiao Hua's actions were very strange and extremely fast. Not to mention the monarch, even Immortal Emperor Go Chen's group didn't notice anything. In the blink of an eye, before Celestial Being could stop the King of Strange Insects' leg, Xiao Hua had already reached high up in the sky, right at the base of the King of Strange Insects' leg. Then, without waiting for the King of Strange Insects to resist, Xiao Hua opened his mouth and spat out a strand of 6-colored flame that quickly entered the King of Strange Insects' body. When Xiao Hua saw the 6-colored spirit fire entering the Strange Insect King's body, he did not stop and was immediately sent flying again. Boom, boom, boom. Just as Xiao Hua left, the space around him began to boil. Flames soared into the sky, and another monster bug king that was tens of thousands of feet long appeared in the void with 6-colored flames surging around its body. Following the flames, the monster bug king's body rapidly expanded and easily broke through the barrier of 100,000 feet. The king of strange insects' leg that was meant to kill Ao Qian suddenly caught fire and became gigantic. As the monster insect king's body expanded, a gray mist rose from the fire, as if it was trying to put out the fire. However, the gray mist didn't extinguish the flames. Instead, it showed signs of being ignited. At the same time, the king of strange insects' body showed no signs of stopping expanding. All right. Seeing that the strange bug king's reaction was similar to that of the first void bug, Xiaohua was greatly reassured. He began to plan how he could take the opportunity to eliminate the other strange bug king. However, in just a few moments, the strange bug king's body, which had been expanding all this time, suddenly emitted a strange fluctuation, and it actually stopped. Then, it strangely shrank again until it was less than 10,000 meters. Xiaohua's heart couldn't help but tighten again. Boom! The king of strange insects' body only shrank for a few breaths before it expanded uncontrollably again. Phew! Xiaohua heaved a sigh of relief again. Chirp chirp. Seeing that the king of strange insects' body was becoming transparent and was about to explode, the king of strange insects hissed a few times. The pitch-black patches on its body began to condense and turn into fine lines. From the fine lines, wisps of green mist mixed with golden threads slowly surged out. As soon as the mist and the golden threads came out, the king of strange insects' body immediately dimmed. The king of strange insects' body began to shrink again, but it shrank at a much slower speed than before. At this moment, the king of strange insects opened its mouth to devour the chi of heaven and earth in the space, causing the space to gradually collapse. As the space collapsed, a destructive aura spread out from the king of strange worms' body in all directions like threads and surging tides. Deformed black fine lines appeared in the aura like hairs, and the indescribable laws of heaven and earth abruptly emerged from the fine lines of the hair. Oh, no. Xiaohua was shocked to see this. How could he not know that the king of strange insects had begun to devour his king of strange insects' six-colored spiritual fire and was about to evolve? He could already fend off many of the king of strange insects' attacks. If it evolved, it would truly become a king of strange insects with 10th grade origin energy. Xiaohua did not know what would happen after the king of strange insects evolved. He did not know if the laws of the three continents would restrict its strength, but he definitely did not want to see the king of strange insects evolve. He did not dare to take the risk. Kill! Xiaohua roared furiously and waved his hands. He no longer held back and unleashed the wrath of thunder. The lightning that looked like the immortal slaying platform fell madly on the king of strange insects. However, when the lightning came into contact with the king of strange insects' body, a strange law of space flashed out from the golden threads of the green mist. The lightning immediately fell into the void and it came into contact with the formation. It could not kill the king of strange insects at all. What? What should I do? What should I do? Xiaohua was shocked. He was like a headless fly, scratching his ears and cheeks in confusion. Ao Sheng, Ao Sheng. Xiaohua could not help but think of Ao Sheng. This was because Xiaohua had only encountered strange insects twice and killed them twice. The first time was with the spiritual fire, and the second time was with Ao Sheng's long bay. Thinking of this, Xiaohua did not care that Ao Sheng was cultivating in seclusion. He shouted, "Fellow celestial being, fellow thunder Taoist, the two of you use your divine abilities and do your best to disturb the king of strange insects' advancement and attract its attention." Yes. Celestial being and lightning Taoist received the order and used their divine abilities. Lightning and light pillars descended and entangled with the king of strange insects. AOE. Xiaohua was anxious. He did not care about etiquette and roared at AOE. Then, Xiaohua's mind entered the space again and pulled Ao Sheng out of it. Ao Sheng's dragon body floated in mid-air, looking like it was in deep sleep. Outside the golden dragon body, there was a huge dragon god shadow that was also in deep sleep, slowly taking shape. On the phantom, the dragon patterns were like true dragons. As they swam, countless dragons were born and destroyed, and countless dragon domain phenomena were born. This. When Aoe heard Xiaohua's shout and saw another king of strange insects in such a state, he knew that the situation was urgent. He urged his dragon body and rushed over. However, when he saw Ao Xing's appearance, he could not help but be dumbfounded. The reverence that came from the bottom of his heart made him involuntarily shout, "Dragon Master Xiao, don't disturb us, bullshit." Xiaohua would not listen to Aoe. He raised his hand and a huge slap landed on Ao Xing's dragon head. Boom. Ao Xing trembled from the slap. The dragon god phantom immediately dissipated and disappeared into his dragon body. Aoe sighed continuously. Boom, boom, boom. Seeing that Ao Xing did not wake up, Xiaohua slapped Ao Xing's face a few more times. Who dares to disturb Laozi? Ao Xing finally woke up. Just as he was about to roar, Xiaohua immediately roared, "Don't talk nonsense, quickly tell Laozi, what exactly was inside that long bay when you were in the folded jade legacy realm?" What long bay? When Ao Xing heard Xiaohua's anger, he trembled and did not dare to say anything. However, he still did not understand what Xiaohua was saying. Boom. Xiaohua once again slapped Ao Xing's face and shouted, "Wake up for your father. Look at what this is." What? Ao Xing sleepily looked at the huge strange insect. At first, he did not understand, but after a moment, he shouted again. His dragon body shook violently, and the sleepiness from before had long disappeared. It could be seen that the strange insect in the stacked jade legacy realm had left a huge shadow in his heart. What exactly is inside the long bay that you killed the strange insect? Tell me. Xiaohua looked at the six-colored spiritual fire on the king of strange insects' body that was about to be extinguished and shouted, "Don't tell me that you didn't think about it carefully later." Holy Dragon Seal, Holy Dragon Seal. Ao Xing also shouted in fear, "I remember telling Master Long about it. Other than the Holy Dragon Seal, what else is there?" Xiaohua shouted, "Tell me one by one." Aoe, who was at the side, already knew what Xiaohua was going to do. He also nervously took out his long bay and waited for Ao Xing to speak. "Nan Hongshan, Qian Yumu." Ao Xing hesitated slightly and began to speak one by one. Second Elder. Xiaohua shouted, "The king of strange insects is devouring everything that can help it advance. There's no need for Master Long to say more. I understand." Aoe had already taken out Nan Hongshan, Qian Yumu, and the others. When he heard Xiaohua's explanation, he hurriedly waved his hand and threw these things into the space and true qi that the king of strange insects was devouring. "All right." Xiaohua nodded and hurriedly urged Ao Xing to recall. At the same time, he looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen and the others. The battle over there was also difficult to determine. The king of strange insects was different from the previous strange insects. It was very agile in space. Even if the paragons of various sects worked together, they could not seal the space. The so-called attacks rarely landed on the king of strange insects' body. There were even many great divine abilities that landed. The spatial laws on the king of strange insects' body distorted, and these divine abilities were also removed. If not for the fact that the king of strange insects was also eager to find an opportunity to advance, it would have escaped from the siege of the paragons of various sects long ago. Damn it. How did things get to this point? Xiaohua was a little regretful that he had used the six-colored spirit fire. However, he also knew in his heart that other than the six-colored spirit fire that could explode the strange insects, he did not have any other effective methods. Now, I can only place my hopes on Ao Xing. Xiaohua said helplessly. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was going to be disappointed in the end. In half a cup of tea's time, Ao Xing had already told him everything that he remembered. Aoe was also very hard-working. He also brought everything in the long bay, but none of these things made the king of strange insects explode. Xiao. Master Xiao. Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to slap him again, Ao Xing said aggrievedly, "That's all in my long bay. Do I have a second sacred dragon seal? I have a divine dragon seal that's similar to the sacred dragon seal." Aoe gritted his teeth and took out a dragon-shaped item that was a few feet long from the long bay. It looked like a seal and said in a low voice, "If the sacred dragon seal is useful, this item should be useful too." Why? Why didn't you take it out earlier? Xiao Hua was exasperated. Aoe shook his head and said, "This item is the same as the sacred dragon seal. It's an ancient item from Dragon Island. It itself." Forget it. At that moment, Aoe did not explain. Then, he threw the divine dragon seal into the mouth of the king of strange insects. Xiao Hua stared at the divine dragon seal being devoured by the king of strange insects and then at its body. After more than 10 breaths, other than the body of the king of strange insects trembling, 80% of the spirit fire had disappeared. The divine dragon seal was useless. I knew it. Aoe sighed, not knowing if he was feeling heartache or regretful. Damn it. Xiao Hua punched Ao Xing's dragon body again and said anxiously, "It's not the sacred dragon seal. Hurry up and think, what else?" Dragon Master Xiao. Ao Xing was in pain from the beating and shouted, "There's really nothing else. Back then, you didn't come out of the folded jade legacy realm for 3 days. I thought about it for a long time. Other than the pills you gave me, there was really nothing else." Pills? Xiao Hua was stunned and asked curiously, "What pills did I give you?" "The blood-replenishing pill you gave me when we were in the deeper Yuan?" Ao Xing asked curiously, "Don't you remember?" Xiao Hua frowned and thought about it. Indeed, he had some impression of it. However, the blood-replenishing pill was refined by the lightning Immortal for the disciples of the Fortune Gate. It was very ordinary, so Xiao Hua did not remember it. But suddenly, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He waved his hand and took out some spirit herbs from the space and threw them into the space where the king of strange insects was devouring. It was not out of Xiao Hua's expectations. The spirit herbs did not cause any abnormalities. After all, he had used spirit herbs to lure the strange insects in the folded jade legacy realm. "Oh, right, I took some that day and asked you for more. You gave me a jade bottle, but there were not many in it. I took one of them, but the effect was not great. The other few were left in the jade bottle and put in the long bay." Ao Xing muttered a few words as if he was dreaming. Boom. Although Ao Xing's words were vague, it was like a bolt from the blue in Xiao Hua's ears. He was really stunned in midair. After a few breaths, he waved his trembling hand and took out a jade bottle from the space. Xiao Hua took a deep breath and poured out the pill from the jade bottle. He then put it near his nose and sniffed it. He raised his hand and threw the pill into the space where the king of strange insects was devouring. The king of strange insects was more than 10,000 zhang long, and the pill was only the size of a thumb. However, when the pill entered the king of strange insects' mouth, the king of strange insects' body expanded from its head. It expanded uncontrollably and did not shrink at all. The dark green color and the flickering golden threads of the space law had no effect. Boom. The king of strange insects, which was almost invincible in the 3 continents, and whose strength was close to the 10th grade, inexplicably exploded just like that. The strange aura that could destroy the world, the deformed black threads, and all the other apocalyptic phenomena disappeared like a splash of water. What? What kind of pill is this? Aoe was dumbfounded. He looked at Xiao Hua in disbelief and couldn't help but exclaim. Xiao Hua's tears were about to fall. These were tears of excitement and gratitude. At this moment, his heart was only filled with the image of the cultivator who often lay lazily on the boat and basked in the sun. Xiao Yuehong, the person who gave Xiao Hua his knowledge, the person who picked Xiao Hua up from the demon-resisting valley, the person who had always acknowledged Xiao Hua as half his disciple. Master. Xiao Hua's heart was intoxicated. He knew best in his heart that what he had just thrown into the king of strange insects' mouth was the parasol pill that he had refined when Xiao Yuehong was watching over him. It was a healing pill refined from the parasol grass and blood-devouring grass of the Dawn Rain continent. It was an ordinary pill that any cultivator, even if they were at the first level of qi refinement, could take. The reason why Xiao Hua had kept this most basic pill was to commemorate the person who gave him his name. The person who had died at the hands of a nascent soul cultivator. But it was this ancient memory that today saved Xiao Hua's life. And in the future, it would also save the lives of millions of creatures. This was because Xiao Hua's most ordinary parasol pill was refined using the worldly origin energy of the Dawn Rain continent. When Xiao Hua refined this parasol pill, the worldly origin energy of the Dawn Rain continent had already begun to mutate. This mutated worldly origin energy was admittedly the misfortune of the Dawn Rain continent's Tao cultivators, but at the same time, it was also the blessing of the three continents. The heavenly Tao was boundless, but the heavenly Tao was impartial. Before the three continents sensed the apocalypse, the heavenly Tao had already left behind a method to eliminate this world-destroying strange insects on the Dawn Rain continent. What Xiao Hua needed to do now was to find a way to use the method left behind by the heavenly Tao on the Dawn Rain continent. However, how could he bring the mutated worldly origin energy of the Dawn Rain continent to the three continents? At this moment, Xiao Hua didn't have the time to think about this problem. This was because when the strange insect king exploded, the other strange insect king that was fighting with Immortal Emperor Go Chen immediately became alert. Swoosh! A wave of ferocious tide-like fluctuations emerged from the strange insect king's body and spread towards the depths of the void. Don't let it escape. Xiao Hua shouted. His body turned into lightning as he rushed over with the other parasol pill. Immortal Emperor Go Chen and the other supremes lost a lot of face. They simply didn't expect that there would be such a powerful strange insect in this world. It was able to ignore the worldly laws of the three continents. Their divine abilities couldn't even touch its hair. Now that they saw the fluctuations coming from the strange insect king's body, how could they not know that it wanted to escape? It was fine if several supremes couldn't kill one strange insect king, but if they let it escape. The supremes didn't dare to think too much. After hearing Xiao Hua's shout, they all activated their divine abilities. They didn't want to succeed, but they wanted to not make any mistakes. They wanted to trap the strange insect king in this space. The fortune of the Confucian cultivators was like a belt, the faith of the Buddhist sect was like a river, the stars and moon of the demon race were like swords, and the dragon language of the dragon race was like a loop. The space around the strange insect king was sealed layer by layer. Strange runes were also born from the confinement. A power that exceeded the worldly laws even attracted the power of laws. The fluctuations came down like a blanket. However, before Xiao Hua could get close, he saw a pitch-black light flash before his eyes. The strange insect king's body actually disappeared in an instant. Xiao Hua found it inconceivable that he had disappeared so abruptly. Without hesitation, he activated his delusion breaker Dharma Eye. Unfortunately, there was no trace of the strange insect king within the range of his illusion breaker Dharma Eye. Even the flea-like black dot in the void began to mysteriously disappear at this time. Swoosh! Swoosh! Ka. Almost at the same time when Xiao Hua opened his illusion breaker Dharma Eye, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's clear heavenly mirror, Dipankara Archaic Buddha's Buddhism divine abilities, and Ao Yi's dragon race secret arts were all activated at the same time. Through his illusion breaker Dharma Eye, Xiao Hua could see a few powerful halos flashing by and enveloping his surroundings. Sigh. Xiao Hua saw that he couldn't do anything. He closed his illusion breaker Dharma Eye and stopped moving. He sighed and said, "Things in this world are really strange. Although I've cultivated to the peak of the three continents and have the chance to look down on all the mountains, I still have to face them. But But, I can't do anything to stop this strange insect king from leaving. Not to mention me, even the supremes of the various sects can't do anything to it. This Shao can only say that. There is always a sky beyond the sky, a mountain beyond a mountain, and a person beyond a person. Sure enough, after a while, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face turned pale. He kept the clear heavenly mirror and looked at the various supremes. Just as he was about to speak, he glanced at the strange insect king in the nearest space and sneered, "Empress, quickly keep the jade pool." "Yes, your majesty." The East Sea Queen's face also turned pale. She thought that Immortal Emperor Go Chen was embarrassed by the situation, so she hurriedly kept the jade pool. But before she could do so, Immortal Emperor Go Chen raised his hand and slapped the golden throne. Boom! Several golden lights gushed out of the Lingyun side palace like fountains. Rumble, rumble. As the golden light fell, the entire dilapidated soaring cloud side palace immediately collapsed inch by inch and exploded. The countless strange insects in the soaring cloud side palace crazily devoured the vital energy in the explosion and exploded one by one. The destruction of the palace and the destruction of the insects triggered the collapse of the palace. The entire space began to shake violently. "Your Majesty." The East Sea Queen didn't expect Immortal Emperor Go Chen to be so decisive. She exclaimed, "This Lingyun side palace is..." "Humph." Immortal Emperor Go Chen snorted coldly and said, "There are billions of strange insects in this Lingyun side palace. If we let them go back, who knows how many cultivators and citizens they will devour. It's better to destroy them all here. Even if we have to sacrifice the entire Lingyun side palace, it's still worth it." "Good." Xiao Hua clapped his hands and said with a smile, "This Xiao has never seen your majesty so pleasing to the eye." Immortal Emperor Go Chen glanced at Xiao Hua and said coldly, "That's because you have never used your heart to look at me." Xiao Hua asked back, "The question is, your majesty, where are the immortal soldiers and immortal generals inside the Lingyun side palace?" "They will naturally escape." Immortal Emperor Go Chen replied indifferently, "Even Princess Qing Qing and the others will also escape." As he said this, Immortal Emperor Go Chen intentionally or unintentionally glanced at the Thunderbolt Immortal. After a little less than an hour, the entire Lingyun side palace was completely destroyed. Just as Immortal Emperor Go Chen thought, 90% of the strange insects were killed along with the Lingyun side palace. The remaining 10% either escaped or were chased down by the immortal soldiers and immortal generals. There was no need for the supremes of the various sects to take action. Xiao Hua and the other supremes stood in the sky, which was the center of the space. After the Lingyun side palace was destroyed, the collapsed space fell around them and slowly disappeared. It was as if they were not part of this space at all. The coldness on their faces was also completely different from the heat of the space. Seeing that the collapse was coming to an end, Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at the thumb-sized parasol pill in Xiao Hua's hand. His eyes flashed with a strange expression as he asked, "Master Xiao Lei, can you tell me what this miraculous pill in your hand is?" "Parasol pill." Xiao Hua did not hide anything and honestly answered. "Parasol pill?" Not to mention Immortal Emperor Go Chen, even Grand Mist Ancestor and Aoe who had a pair of dragon ears were baffled. It was obvious that they had never heard of this name before. The parasol pill is refined using parasol grass and blood-devouring grass. It is the most basic healing pill of my Dao Gate. Xiao Hua explained. Grand Mist Ancestor's eyes unconsciously lit up when he heard this. He hurriedly waved his hand and took out a pill. He said excitedly, "Daoist Xiao, so. My Dao Gate's healing pill is the innate nemesis of the strange insects? You can try." Xiao Hua replied indifferently. "Woo." Without waiting for Xiao Hua to finish speaking, Grand Mist Ancestor raised his hand. A large illusory hand appeared and grabbed one of the strange insects that were left behind in the distance. Then, he confidently flicked his hand and the pill landed right in front of the strange insect. When the strange insect smelled the pill, it immediately moved its legs and pounced over. It opened its mouth and swallowed the pill into its stomach. Unfortunately, when the pill entered the strange insect's body, the strange insect's body only expanded slightly. There was no abnormality. Taoist Xiao, could it be that you are hiding something? Grand Mist Ancestor was unhappy. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took out 2 spiritual herbs. He nodded and said, one of them is parasol grass and the other is blood-devouring grass. After speaking, Xiao Hua sent one spiritual herb after another into the strange insect's mouth. After the strange insect swallowed it, its body did not even move. Master Xiao, do you mean? Aoe probed. Is there a secret to your refining technique? No. Xiao Hua raised his hand and looked at the parasol pill in his hand. A trace of tenderness appeared on his face as he replied, it's this pill that is different. Take it and try. Grand Mist Ancestor said unhappily, I don't believe it. Xiao Hua coldly looked at Grand Mist Ancestor and said, whether you believe it or not, what does it have to do with me? After speaking, Xiao Hua did not even look at Grand Mist Ancestor's embarrassed and angry expression. He withdrew his hand and sent the precious parasol pill into the space. Master Xiao, why don't you try again? The golden-winged great peng also advised, if you succeed, won't we be more certain? Every time I try, there will be one less pill. Xiao Hua did not want to brush off the golden-winged great peng's face and said with a smile, this kind of pill. I only have a few. Ah. Why so few? When the supremes of the various sects saw that Xiao Hua had the spirit pill that could kill the king of monster insects, and also heard that it was the lowest grade healing spirit pill of Taoism, they all had hope in their hearts, thinking that Xiao Hua must have a lot of them. However, when they heard Xiao Hua's words, they couldn't help but be surprised. Even the master of the Eastern Sea, Ao Qian, asked, Master Xiao Hua, do you have a lot of them? If you don't have the parasol grass and blood-devouring grass, we will do our best to find them. Unfortunately. Xiao Hua raised his head and looked at the chaotic void in the sky. He shook his head and said, the parasol grass and blood-devouring grass here can't be used. Dragon Master Xiao. The 5-horned profound armor dragon was a little displeased. What's so special about this pill? Why was it able to kill the monstrous insect king? I'm sure you already know the answer. At this point, you and I are in the same boat, so why can't you just tell me? I naturally have to tell you. Xiao Hua's tone was faint as he replied, but I don't know where to start. Master Xiao Hua, speak slowly. The East Ocean Empress said with a smile, we are all ears. If you feel thirsty, I have a peach of immortality here to moisten your mouth. Hee, then I will have to trouble you, Empress. Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and said with a smile. The East Ocean Empress did as she said. She nodded and handed a peach of immortality to Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua took it and looked at it carefully. He saw that this peach of immortality was the size of a wash basin. It was furry and fluffy, and under the fluffy skin was the peach skin. It was bright red and made people drool just by looking at it. Not to mention, a faint sweet fragrance rushed into Xiao Hua's mouth and nose. His craving had long been aroused. Xiao Hua looked left and right and said with a smile, I have never eaten a peach of immortality before. So, I am sorry, everyone has seen a joke. As he spoke, Xiao Hua opened his mouth and was about to take a bite of the peach of immortality. He only felt the fragrant flesh enter his mouth, and it really melted in his mouth. The wash basin-sized peach of immortality was swallowed by Xiao Hua in a few mouthfuls. It was not an exaggeration to say that he was wolfing it down. After he finished eating, the East Ocean Empress was about to ask for the peach pit. Xiao Hua waved his hand and took the pit. He said with a smile, oh right, Princess Xia should also listen to what I want to say. Empress, please wait a moment. The East Ocean Empress opened her mouth and looked at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen thought for a moment and slightly nodded at the East Ocean Empress, tacitly admitting that Xiao Hua was greedy for the peach pit. However, the East Ocean Empress was unwilling and said in a low voice, "Master Xiaohua, that peach. If it wasn't for the water of the Jade Lake, it would not have sprouted and bear fruit." "Oh. Ah. Yes." Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and answered without saying anything. When Princess Xia came out, Xiaohua did not wait for her to speak and said, "Everyone, did I say that I was not in a good mood before? If you want to kill strange insects, there is a basic method to kill them, and that is to use heterogeneous true energy. And within this Xiao's parasol dragon pill, there is also a different type of true energy. This heterogeneous true energy does not belong to the plane of the three continents. It belongs to another plane called the Dawn Rain continent. Let's see the situation of the battle prowess ranking first. Also, I thank everyone for supporting God Cultivation. If everyone can enjoy this chapter to their heart's content, it will be the greatest gratification for the third place. At the same time, I will use this opportunity to call for more readers to subscribe to the original version of this book. The third place does not ask for everyone to subscribe to all the previous chapters. I only hope that everyone can start from the most recent chapters. The story of the immortal world and the desolate era is in everyone's hands. The third place tearfully asks for subscriptions. If the subscriptions reach 1,000, the immortal world will be opened. If the monthly votes reach 100, the next chapter will be opened. If the monthly votes reach 1,000, the next chapter will be opened. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a saint will depend on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4677. You're not a cultivator from our three continents. At this moment, the Supremes finally woke up from their daze and exclaimed in shock. No. Immortal Emperor Gochen shook his head again and said, "This emperor also thought that you were an outer realm cultivator, but there are no spatial passages to the outer realm near our three continents. Moreover, with your cultivation back then, it was impossible for you to break through the barrier with your physical body like them. I came here through the three Xiantian Great Arrays in the West Sea." Xiaohua explained, "These three formations seem to be the Buddhist sect's Great Meru Formation, the Tao sect's Five Elements Annihilation Formation, and the demon race's Clear Time Demon Formation." After Xiaohua explained how he came here through the formations, the Supremes looked at each other in dismay. A moment later, Dongfang Qianghao asked, "Master Xiaolei, we already know how you came here. Moreover, we also know that the Dawn Rain continent's origin energy can kill the strange insects. Now, can you tell us the situation of the Dawn Rain continent? For example, what's the situation with the Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, demon race, dragon race, and Tao sect?" Hearing Dongfang Qianghao's words, Xiaohua's heart trembled. He smiled and said, "When I left the Dawn Rain continent, my cultivation was shallow and I had been cultivating with my master. My sect was a small sect with only 3.5 disciples. Not only did I not go to many places, but I also didn't know much about the Dawn Rain continent." Seeing that Xiaohua didn't want to say, the others couldn't force him. The golden-winged Peng asked, "Since we already know how to kill the strange insects, then what should we do?" Xiaohua already had a plan and replied, "This is my idea. I'll discuss it with everyone. Please speak, Master Xiao." At this time, no one dared to disturb Xiaohua and they all quietly listened to his explanation. First of all, the strange insects can pass through space, so our plan to guard the borders of the three continents and the 4 seas to stop the strange insects from entering the realm has failed. We can only set up defenses in the 3 continents and the 4 seas. Xiaohua said, "According to the previous discussion, the Dragon Race and Dragon Island are in charge of the Eastern Ocean, Northern Ocean, and Southern Ocean. Tao sect is in charge of the Western Ocean, Buddhist sect is in charge of the Immortal Realm, Confucian cultivators are in charge of the Hidden Immortal Continent, and the Demon Race are in charge of the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. Of course, as for how to kill the strange insects, I'm sure you've all seen how powerful the strange insects are today. So, I'm sure all of you have an idea. Secondly, I would like to invite all the Supremes to return to the Immortal Palace, Great Sage Hall, Thunder Temple, Dragon Island, and Dragon Palace to look for ancient books and records to see if there are any traces of the Dawn Rain continent, or if there are any spatial meridians that lead to other realms, such as the Dawn Rain continent, the 10,000 demon realm, the spirit realm, and so on. If there are any, we can go to the Dawn Rain continent, or go to the Dawn Rain continent through other realms to obtain enough spiritual herbs and spiritual items to kill all the strange insects. Hearing this, the Grand Mist Ancestor said, "Fellow Taoist Shao, I have no objections to your first arrangement. But I feel that the second suggestion is unrealistic. Not to mention the big problem of finding the Dawn Rain continent. Even if we find the space vein to the Dawn Rain continent, there are countless strange insects in the 3 continents. How many spiritual herbs do we need to bring? This Shao has the Kunlun mirror, His Majesty has the clear sky mirror, you venerables must have other treasures." Shao Hua smiled and said, "You may not know how many spiritual herbs these treasures can hold. Moreover, don't forget that a small blade of grass can kill a strange insect. We only need to kill the strange insects that are 100 zhang tall. What's the point of killing the small insects? The problem is, Grand Mist Ancestor wanted to get to the bottom of it. There are more strange insects hidden in the void. We don't know. This is the root of the strange insects." He. Shao Hua smiled and waved his hand. "This Shao will not tell you in detail. Wait until you finish reading the story of the Confucian cultivators. The foolish old man moves the mountain, then this Shao will tell you." Damn it. Shao Hua's words choked the Grand Mist Ancestor. How could the Grand Mist Ancestor not know the story of the foolish old man moving the mountain? He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Then, he suppressed his disgust and said with a smile, "Taoist Master Shao, please don't blame me. I just wanted to ask for more details. Otherwise, if others knew about this, they might think too much." Overthink? What's there to overthink? Shao Hua frowned. Naturally, they feel that Shao Lang is using a chicken feather as an arrow. They want to borrow this matter and borrow the strength of the various sect sovereigns to find the space vein to return to the Dawn Rain continent. Princess Xia continued. "Grand Mist Ancestor, is this what you mean?" He, I didn't say that." The Grand Mist Ancestor chuckled, as the saying goes, 3 men make a tiger. Since your highness can think of it, it's not impossible for others to think of it. Who cares? Shao Hua waved his hand. You're already at death's door, yet you still have so many dirty thoughts. You deserve to die. Dragon Master Zhao's arrangement is pretty good. Aoe glanced at Ao Sheng, who was already in a deep sleep, and smiled. After I return to Dragon Island, I'll definitely order the dragon race to find the space vein nearby. However, will Dragon Master still allow Ao Sheng to return to the Kunlun Immortal Realm? Of course. Shao Hua smiled. He shook the Kunlun mirror and kept Ao Sheng. Then, he said to Aoe, I'll have to trouble Dragon Island. We also know Immortal Emperor Go Chen, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, and the Golden-Winged Great Rock nodded. Now, we'll make 2 arrangements. On one hand, we'll use our current strength to exterminate the strange insects. On the other hand, we'll search for the space vein that connects to the Dawn Rain continent. I feel that we should focus on searching for the space vein. Because this method doesn't require us to fight against the strange insects. Shao Hua was afraid that the various sect sovereigns would slack off, so he emphasized, there's no need to risk the lives of our disciples. Moreover, I feel that the 2 strange insect kings that appeared today might not be real kings. There are still many with the same strength as them. Yes, Thunder Master Shao is right. Immortal Emperor Go Chen thought for a while and said, we can't underestimate them. Moreover, other than the 2 things that Thunder Master Shao mentioned, I also feel that we Confucian cultivators need to set up the 9 provinces Great Formation. Io. Hearing this, Shao Hua slapped his forehead and said, I understand now. So this is the reason why the Scholar Palace's master didn't participate in the Jade Lake gathering. Your Majesty is really far-sighted. I'm impressed. Hee hee. Immortal Emperor Gochen smiled and said, since you've made 2 preparations, I have to make 2 preparations too. If he can't make a move, then only my Immortal Palace can make a move. 9 ninth grade elemental force when Xing cultivators, our Immortal Palace still has some. Hee hee, but since it's the 9 provinces great formation, no matter who sets it up, it's still set up. Your Majesty's decree. Xiao Hua asked with a smile. Princess Zixia immediately lowered her head. She was so embarrassed that even her neck turned red. Yes, of course. Immortal Emperor Gochen nodded and said, if you give up the 9 provinces cauldrons, it can be considered as contributing to the 9 provinces great formation. If the formation is successfully set up, my decree will still be effective. Immortal Emperor Gochen had made it so obvious, but Xiao Hua still didn't feel at ease giving the 9 provinces cauldrons to Immortal Emperor Gochen. He thought for a while and said, Your Majesty, let's wait for the Scholar Palace's master to come. I'll give the 9 provinces cauldrons to him. Oh, why? Immortal Emperor Gochen asked curiously, can't you give it to me? Hee hee, it's not suitable. Xiao Hua laughed and said, if the Immortal Palace sets up the formation successfully, then it's extremely good. But if... I'm just saying if... If the formation is not successful and Your Majesty takes the 9 provinces cauldrons, then how can I marry Princess Zixia? Without the 9 provinces cauldrons, I'm not sure. Humph. Immortal Emperor Gochen snorted, but he couldn't say anything. Xiao Hua did this to put the initiative in his hands, and no one could blame him for it. Seeing Immortal Emperor Gochen's displeasure, Xiao Hua's eyes turned and said, how about this, Your Majesty? To show my sincerity, I'm willing to trade a parasol pill with Your Majesty. What do you think? Trade? Parasol pill? Immortal Emperor Gochen didn't understand at first, but he suddenly understood and hurriedly nodded. 1 pill won't do, I need 2. Xiao Hua looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen, then at the East Sea Empress and nodded. Okay. What do you want? Immortal Emperor Gochen asked impatiently. The throne of creation. Xiao Hua answered without hesitation. Immortal Emperor Gochen wasn't surprised by Xiao Hua's request. He thought for a while and nodded. Okay. Then, he didn't wait for Xiao Hua to take out the East Parasol pill and said to the East Sea Empress, Empress, give the throne to Master Xiao Lei. Yes, Your Majesty. The East Sea Empress agreed and activated the Jade Pool to take out the throne of creation. Xiao Hua received the throne of creation under the Grand Mist Ancestor's fiery gaze. Xiao Hua sighed with emotion as he gazed at the supreme throne of the Daoist sect. All those years ago at Yellow Flower Ridge, Xiao Yuehong had painstakingly refined the parasol pill, yet he had only exchanged it for some low-grade spirit stones. Yet at this moment, 2 parasol pills had actually been exchanged for such a treasure. If the deceased Xiao Yuehong were to find out about this, wouldn't he be furious to the point of stomping his feet? Xiao Hua recalled the bitter memories in his heart and put the throne into his space. Then, he took out the 2 parasol pills and gave them to Immortal Emperor Gochen and the East Sea Empress. The Immortal Emperor and Empress received the parasol pills and carefully hid them. They understood that 1 parasol pill was equivalent to 1 life. Xiao. Seeing that the golden-winged Great Peng was about to speak, Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand and said, This Xiao only has 5 of these pills. I just used 1, so there are 4 left. Empress and His Majesty will each have 1. As for the remaining 2, Princess Zixia and I will each have 1. Everyone, don't speak anymore. If you want more pills, please help this Xiao find the spatial vein that leads to the Dawn Rain continent as soon as possible. All right. Seeing that Xiao Hua spoke so cleanly, the golden-winged Great Peng could only shut his mouth. He looked at the profound armored pentagram dragon and said, Let's go. Today's matter has been settled. We should hurry back to the Great Sage Hall. We have sent the demon race army to the north of the Thousand Demons' sacred territory. The entire Thousand Demons' sacred territory is empty. If the strange insects attack, who can stop them? Hurry, hurry. The profound armored pentagram dragon was also anxious. As the two demon race great sages spoke, they bowed to everyone and flew away. Aoe, Ao Qian, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and the Maitreya Buddha all took their leave. Then, Dongfang Qianghao and the primordial chaos ancestor left as well. Finally, Xiaohua looked at the wretched space and said to Princess Xia, let's go too. Princess Xia nodded and respectfully knelt in front of Immortal Emperor Go Chen and the East Sea Emperor. She kowtowed and said, Your Majesty, Empress, I'll take my leave now. Go. Be careful of yourself. Immortal Emperor Go Chen rarely said such warm words. Hearing this, Princess Xia's tears flowed down again. As a girl born in a royal family, she still had some true feelings in her heart. Whenever she was touched, she would think of many things. The East Sea Empress also wiped her eyes and stretched out her hands. She obviously wanted to hug Princess Xia. Cough cough. Immortal Emperor Go Chen coughed to remind her. However, the more he coughed, the more the East Sea Empress moved. She flew in front of Princess Xia and hugged her. She said softly, Child, you must take care of yourself in the future. If there's nothing else, you can stay in the Kunlun immortal realm. Yes. Boy understands. Princess Xia's heart was broken. Her previous resentment had faded a lot. She replied in a low voice while choking with sobs. Immortal Emperor Go Chen watched from the side and didn't say anything. He transmitted his voice to the immortal generals in the distance and ordered Bai En to come over. When Bai En arrived, Princess Xia had already regained her composure. After Bai En greeted the immortal emperor and empress, Xiaohua brought two people with him. The Thunder Immortal and the Celestial being guarded behind them. The five of them also flew into the sky. Seeing Princess Xia leave with Xiaohua, the East Sea Empress stared at the direction where Princess Xia disappeared. She was reluctant to leave for a long time, as if Princess Xia was flying slowly. The East Sea Empress understood that it would be difficult to meet Princess Xia again after she left. Not to mention that Princess Xia had to return to the Immortal Palace under orders. Just the Fortune Gates trip to the West Sea was unpredictable. Previously, the East Sea Empress felt that Princess Xia had Xiaohua, a Taoist Grand Ascension stage expert, by her side, so she didn't have to worry. However, after seeing how powerful the strange insect was today, she couldn't help but feel anxious again. Cough cough. Only when Immortal Emperor Go Chen coughed did the East Sea Empress retract her gaze. Her figure involuntarily flew out of the distance. It was completely different from the zither at the Jade Lake. A trace of coldness appeared on the East Sea Empress' face. She said indifferently, What? Can't I take a few more glances at my daughter? It's better than looking at the lowly servants of the Flower Medicine Palace, right? Empress, you're being unreasonable. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked around and said in a flustered and exasperated manner, We have a very pure relationship with Fairy Yu. That's right. You guys are just chatting about life, cultivation, ideals, and ambitions. The East Sea Empress said in an incomparably sarcastic manner, At most, when you're free, when no one is around, you go to the heavenly river to watch the sunrise and sunset, and watch the flowers bloom and wilt. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Go Chen scolded, You dare to follow me? The East Sea Empress stretched and used her hand to tidy up the slightly messy hair under her pearl crown. She smiled and said, Why do I need to follow you? In the entire Immortal Palace, who doesn't know? Humph. Immortal Emperor Go Chen waved his hand and said coldly, Some people are too idle. It's starting to get boring. Looks like we need to find a new hall master for the Mystery Hall. That's your Majesty's responsibility. I don't recommend it. The East Sea Empress' lips curled into a faint mocking smile as she replied, "However, I recommend your majesty to show some concern for Princess Qing Qing. Unfortunately, before the East Sea Empress could finish, Immortal Emperor Gochen rudely interrupted her and asked curiously, "We have a princess called Qing Qing? Why don't we know about it?" Whoosh. The East Sea Empress' face turned pale instantly. She looked at Immortal Emperor Gochen in disbelief and bit her lips. She said word by word, You're really so heartless?" Immortal Emperor Gochen didn't want to answer, but when he saw the sorrow in the East Sea Empress' eyes, he narrowed his eyes and said, "Am I heartless? Don't you think? We were forced to do this." After saying that, Immortal Emperor Gochen didn't say anything else. He urged his body to charge towards a corner of the space. There were still some strange insects wreaking havoc there. Sun Jian and the others were leading immortal soldiers and immortal generals to kill them. When Taibai Jinxing and the other civil officials saw Immortal Emperor Gochen coming over, they immediately revealed themselves and surrounded Immortal Emperor Gochen like stars surrounding the moon. Sigh. The East Sea Empress sighed. She pressed down on her cloud and the phantom of the golden throne slowly disappeared. Then, she flew towards another direction. Princess Xia followed Xiao Hua and flew out of the space. She was greeted by the arrival of dawn. High up in the sky to the west, the bright moon had faded away. Only a large part of the moon's silhouette was left hanging there all alone. Under the full moon, tall and proud mountains stood tall and straight above the earth. Most of the mountain ridges had just emerged from the night and were still dark. However, at the peak of the lone mountain, patches of bright yellow luster were like gilded gold, reflecting the mountain rocks, withered plum trees, and branches. Wasn't that the smiling face of the sun peeking out from the east? Above the full moon, several eagle-like birds flew against the wind. The feathers on their heads were blown up high by the wind. An indescribable arrogance and unyielding aura was emitted from their flight path. Looking at the inside of the mountain peak under the full moon again, there was another flock of pigeon-like birds flashing their spotlessly white wings, circling and circling around the small foothills. Although they couldn't compare with the sky, and they also didn't have the pride of an eagle, the whistling sound of the dancing wind, and the clear cry of "goo goo," also made Xiao Hua, who was looking at all of this with his eyes, feel warm in his heart. How can I let the strange insects trample on it? Xiao Hua looked at the outline of the full moon, and then looked at the rising sun behind him. The bright yellow sunlight was currently illuminating the earth. He slightly narrowed his eyes and thought to himself. However, when he thought of the strange insect, that incomparable heavy and powerless feeling was born from the bottom of his heart. The strange insects are really innumerable. That strange insect king is really powerful. Xiao Hua thought and glanced at the Celestial and the Thunderbolt Immortal. Now, the two clones were also frowning. It seemed that they also saw the uncertainty and difficulty of the future from the previous fierce battle. Darling Xiao. Princess Xia was at the side, looking at Xiao Hua's rock-like face. She also noticed the weed-like melancholy between Xiao Hua's eyebrows. She said in a low voice, "The strange insect is very powerful, but I feel that its intelligence is not high. The human race and demon race of our 3 continents are the dragon race. All of them have high intelligence. If we use our intelligence to fight against their strength, we might not necessarily have no chance of winning. Moreover, I feel that the 3 continents and the 4 seas have been peaceful for a long time. The internal strife between the various sects and races is becoming more and more unbearable and out of control. The disaster of the strange insects may not necessarily be a bad thing. It's good. At least it can make the 3 continents and the 4 seas work together to resist the foreign enemies." Xiao Hua knew that Princess Xia was comforting him. He smiled and nodded. "You're right. I remember that there's a saying among the Confucian cultivators, united for a long time, divided for a long time, united for a long time. Now, perhaps because of the strange insects, the human race, the demon race, and the dragon race have reached a period of union. However, when Xiao Hua said this, he sighed again. Unfortunately, the price of this union is unavoidably a bit high. In this war between humans and insects, who knows how many cultivators will fall? How many years of cultivation? In the end, it will all turn into nothing. We'll die either way. The Thunderbolt Immortal shouted unhappily. What's the difference between dying in the hands of our own people and dying in the mouth of the strange insects? Of course there's a difference. The celestial being was not to be outdone. He also shouted. Dying in the battle with the strange insects, the name is pleasant to hear. Dying in the internal strife, the name is disgusting. Hee, it's rare that fellow celestial being actually knows about this. Xiao Hua smiled. He looked at Bai and who was standing beside him and said, Bai, and I presume you know where the soaring dragon mountain range is. Can you take us there? Princess Xia already knew about Xiao Hua's problem of getting lost. Without waiting for Bai and to speak, she first pursed her lips and said with a smile, since the sect master has ordered, this little girl doesn't dare to disobey. Masters, this way please. After saying this, Princess Xia raised her hand and invited Xiao Hua to fly in the direction of the soaring dragon mountain range. Thank you for your trouble, thank you for your trouble. Xiao Hua also put on an act and cupped his hands towards Princess Xia. After Bai unaccompanied Princess Xia, Xiao Hua, the Thunderbolt Immortal, and the Celestial being flew up again. However, after just half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Hua's figure suddenly slowed down. He raised his hand and said, Wait. What's wrong? Princess Xia was somewhat puzzled. She looked at Xiao Hua with her beautiful eyes. Alas, the thing that this Xiao is afraid of has finally come. Xiao Hua sighed. His figure flashed and he directly landed on the ground. The place where Xiao Hua landed was precisely a basin. This basin was about 100 li in size. Inside it was a medium-sized town. The center of the town was at the center of the basin. There were many pavilions and courtyards built here. In the surroundings of the town, that is, in the basin that was surrounded by mountains and rivers, there were more than 10 small villages. This basin's climate was humid and the sun was abundant. It looked like a livable place. However, at this time, everyone had already flown into the town, but they still didn't see a single shadow. Not to mention the shadow of a human, even the ordinary poultry, livestock, and even the fish in the rivers around the village couldn't be seen. Dead silence. Dead silence. There were only the occasional whistling of the wind and the crying of the forest. Xiao Hua's divine sense had already swept over the place. At this time, he was standing in midair. His eyes were filled with anger. He lowered his voice and said, when this Xiao received the news of the attack of the strange insects, he still felt lucky. After all, the strange insects that this Xiao encountered all devoured true qi. Perhaps they wouldn't harm ordinary humans. However, the news of the Elysium world made this Xiao secretly afraid. This Xiao didn't understand why those strange insects would attack ordinary humans. However, looking at those strange insects that looked like ink dots at the Jade Lake Conference, this Xiao understood that the strange insects were the same as the cultivators of the 3 continents. The largest number of them were those strange insects that hadn't formed a shell. These strange insects simply devoured true qi and couldn't form a shell. Perhaps they could only rely on devouring the flesh and blood of humans and demons. To form a shell? Princess Xia and Bai looked at the basin that was like a dead area. They were somewhat sorrowful in their hearts. Princess Xia said in a low voice, if only we had come a little earlier. Alas. Xiao Hua let out a long sigh. He released his divine sense. The netherworld origin power rolled out again to see if he could find any wandering souls that hadn't fallen into the cycle of reincarnation. However, when he released his divine sense, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Because in the entire basin, there were countless vengeful souls. They were all miserably floating around in the air. It seemed that none of them had fallen into the underworld. Io, what's going on? Xiaohua didn't dare to be negligent. As he hurriedly collected the wandering souls, he thought to himself, could it be that the living beings killed by these strange insects can't be reincarnated? If that's the case, after the war, regardless of whether our human race wins or loses, the 3 continents. When he thought of this, Xiaohua almost didn't dare to continue thinking. How could the 3 continents that were filled with wandering souls be a world full of sunshine? How could the human race survive in this place with an open and upright heart? No, no. We must shorten the time of the war as much as possible. We can't place our hopes on the war. Xiaohua had already made his decision. This Xiao must find a way back and bring back a huge amount of spiritual herbs and other things. Otherwise, after the war, the 3 continents will definitely be destroyed. Fuck, this strange insect. Where did it come from? Why is it so strange and so powerful? The lightning Taoist naturally knew of Xiaohua's astonishment and couldn't help but exclaim. The origin of the strange insect is no longer important. Xiaohua collected all the wandering souls into the spaces inside. With a wave of his hand, everyone flew up again. Only then did he speak again. The important thing is that the strange insect is already here. Previously, this Xiao only wanted to send all the Fortune Gate's disciples to the Western Sea. Now, it seems that the Xiao Empire's people are also not safe. If possible, it's better to take them all into the Kunlun paradise. Princess Xia was already used to Xiaohua's rotten good intentions. However, when she heard Xiaohua's words, she still persuaded him, my dear Xiao, although the Xiao Empire's people are your people, they are also the people of the hidden immortal continent. They are the masters of their own thoughts. Although your intentions are good and the Kunlun paradise is also excellent, you must know that whether to go or not should be left to them. Xiaohua nodded. At this time, he was already a little anxious, so how could he think so much? He said to Biyao, when we return to the soaring Dragon Mountain range, tell Fuji Wen about this and let him inform the Xiao Empire's disciples to prepare to move to the Xinhua continent. Yes, this disciple understands. Biyao hurriedly agreed. My dear Xiao, don't panic. Seeing Xiaohua in such a state, Princess Xia was even more worried and whispered to him through voice transmission. Xiaohua was not panicking, but he felt uncomfortable seeing a city with a population of several 100,000 being destroyed by the strange insect. Hearing Princess Xia's considerate reminder, he smiled and said, don't worry. I know very well what I should do. All right. Princess Xia smiled and said, as long as you know it. My fortune gate still needs to rely on you, the sect master. Princess Xia's words indeed had a double meaning. Although she did not mention herself, the words my fortune gate immediately revealed her thoughts. I understand. Xiaohua smiled, but then he thought of Princess Qing and wanted to say something, but when the words reached his mouth, he swallowed them back down. Xiaohua believed that Princess Qing was more experienced in dealing with this kind of matter than him. On the way back to the Fortune Dao Palace from the Lingyun side hall, Xiaohua had been paying attention to the surrounding situation. Fortunately, other than the tragedy in the basin, he did not find any abnormalities, not even a trace of the strange insect. However, when he thought about the quietness and the numerous strange insects in the veins of the void, Xiaohua couldn't help but feel his scalp go numb. He clearly knew that the common people of the hidden immortal continent were sitting on top of a huge volcano. This volcano could erupt with lava at any time, destroying their lives and lives. Xiaohua's worry wasn't groundless. Before the familiar soaring Dragon Mountain range could be seen in the distance, Xiaohua's complexion suddenly changed. He exclaimed in a low voice, "Oh no, not good." Following Xiaohua's cry, the lightning Taoist and the heavenly being had already teleported away. Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and shouted, Xia, quickly enter the Kunlun immortal realm. The strange insects are attacking my soaring Dragon Mountain range. Princess Xia was the most sensible person, and she did not ask a single word. She pulled Biyao and entered the Shenhua continent. As for Xiaohua, after receiving the two of them, his eyes flashed fiercely. Lightning surged around his body, and he turned into a flash as he rushed towards the soaring dragon mountain range. When Xiaohua arrived, the entire soaring dragon mountain range was in ruins, just like Immortal Emperor Go Chen's Lingyun side hall. However, the Fortune Gate's disciples were much stronger than the Immortal Palace's immortal soldiers and immortal generals. One by one, they set up battle formations in the sky, on the ground, and on the mountain range, killing countless strange insects in an orderly manner. On top of that, the Du Tian star formation that Xiao Huasu had laid out earlier had already been devoured by the strange insects. Many of the insects were still pouncing on those weak points, greedily gnawing on them, completely ignoring the Fortune Gate disciples' attacks. Looking at the sky several thousand feet above the soaring Dragon Mountain range, everything within 1,000 miles was already in chaos. Layers of void fragments mixed with raging waves of dragon chi were wreaking havoc in the sky. Kill. The lightning Taoist was the first to rush back. Hundreds of lightning swords covered half of the sky as they surged towards a strange insect king that was also several thousand feet in size. This strange insect king's huge tail was also fighting against Taoist Min's dragon body. Taoist Min's strength was considered outstanding among the 10 patriarchs, but at this moment, he was actually on par with this strange insect king. The lightning Taoist's lightning swords fell on the strange insect king's body. Just like before, a layer of extremely strange spatial laws emerged from the gaps of the strange insect king's body. Most of the lightning swords missed, and only a small portion of the lightning swords fell on the strange insect king's body. Even so, it only made the strange insect king's body expand by half like a wave. The Celestial didn't participate in the battle. Instead, he watched coldly, as if he was thinking about something. Xiaohua landed in front of the strange insect king. With a sweep of his divine sense, he found that this strange insect king was completely different from the strange insect king that escaped from the Immortal Palace. Shocked, he pounced on the strange insect king without hesitation. Then, he threw a low-grade spiritual stone that he obtained from the Dawn Rain continent into the strange insect king's devouring void. It was quite strange. If the strange insect king didn't have intelligence, it could lead a group of strange insects to attack the Ascendant Cloud Side Palace and the Fortune Taoist Palace. Moreover, it knew that there were two of them working together, one in the light and one in the dark. However, if the strange insect king had intelligence, it wouldn't hesitate to devour anything that contained vital energy within its devouring range. It wouldn't care if there was something wrong with it at all. The spiritual stone didn't react at all when it fell into the strange insect king's mouth. Not only because the vital energy contained in the spiritual stone was too little, but also because this low-grade spiritual stone was formed before the Dawn Rain continent's spiritual energy changed. It had no effect on the strange insect king. Xiaohua wasn't surprised. He took out a marrow cleansing pill from his storage bag and threw it in casually. This marrow cleansing pill was also obtained by Xiaohua in his early years. It had been many years since he left the Shenhua continent. Fortunately, the array formation in the storage bag didn't collapse. The mutated spiritual energy contained in the marrow cleansing pill was still there. When the pill fell into the strange insect king's mouth, the strange insect king's body immediately swelled out of control. Boom! Seeing the strange insect king explode inch by inch, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly said, "Fellow Taoists, tentacles, hind legs, and tail spike." The Celestial, Thunderbolt Immortal, and Taoist Min naturally understood Xiaohua's thoughts. The Celestial's body swayed, and 6 arms stretched out, pulling out 2 tentacles from the exploding tentacles. The Thunderbolt Immortal waved his hand, and both Xiaohua and Taoist Min took down the 2 huge hind legs. Taoist Min was already fighting with the strange insect king's tail. At this moment, he used his dragon tail to pull out the even bigger tail spike. Thunderbolt Immortal. Xiaohua didn't say anything. He waved the Kunlun mirror and said, "There's a saying in the human race, an eye for an eye." At this moment, we don't have any good methods to deal with the strange insects. If we use the strange insect king's hind legs to deal with the strange insects, I think it will be useful. My spirit-slaying vital light has already obtained the essence of the ordinary strange insect's hind legs, and its effect has increased significantly. If we refine the strange insect king's hind legs, tail tip, and other essences into it, won't it become a powerful weapon to kill the strange insects? You don't have to worry about the hidden immortal continent. Go back to the Shenhua continent and refine the spirit-slaying vital light successfully. Okay. The Thunderbolt Immortal nodded in agreement. He took the spoils and was about to return to the Shenhua continent. However, at this moment, Xiaohua thought of something again. He hurriedly called out, all right. The Thunderbolt Immortal simply stood in mid-air and said with a faint smile, fellow Daoist, think about it carefully. It won't be too late for I to go back after we're done talking. There's nothing else. Xiaohua laughed and said, however, I remember. My Fortune Gate wants to build transmission arrays on the 3 mainlands. The Shenhua continent's Fortune Gate fellow Daoist is much clearer than I. Which disciples can build transmission arrays and which disciples are reliable? I need fellow Daoist's help to choose. The Thunderbolt Immortal was happy to hear that. He nodded and said, rest assured, fellow Daoist, I will choose the disciples to build the transmission arrays. In a while, you can come in and ask them to leave. Also, there are many disciples who can build the transmission arrays. I will also ask them to draw up a list for you. Good. Xiaohua cupped his fists and said, I'll have to trouble fellow Daoist. Subsequently, the Thunderbolt Immortal hurried in. Not long after, a jade eye appeared. Xiaohua received it and looked at it carefully before putting it away. With the strange insect king's death, the soaring Dragon Mountain Range's strange insects seemed to have received a bugle call to retreat. The frenzied attacks on the Fortune Gate's disciples immediately retreated like the tide. The Fortune Gate's disciples also relaxed and slowed down their attacks. Xiaohua flew high into the sky, revealing his golden body as he shouted, disciples, these strange insects not only attack cultivators, but also ordinary people. If they are allowed to escape, who knows how many ordinary people will die in their mouths. Listen to my command, kill. Xiaohua's heart was caring for the world, and he had achieved the Buddha fruit of Nanwa Great Compassion Guanyin Bodhisattva. Under his influence, the Fortune Gate's disciples also placed compassion and conscience as their #1 priority. When they heard that the strange insects would also attack ordinary people, their already relaxed fighting spirit was stirred up again. They roared and pounced on the strange insects. If the strange insect king wanted to escape, Xiaohua and the others might not be able to stop it. However, if the strange insects below the strange insect king wanted to escape, they would have to ask Xiaohua's permission first. Xiaohua and the others did not join the battle. Instead, they stood in the air around the soaring Dragon Mountain Range and jointly sealed off the entire space. On one hand, they prevented the strange insects from escaping, and on the other hand, they observed the strange insects' manipulation of space law. This battle was so intense that the sky and earth darkened. They had been fighting for 3 whole days. Just like Xiaohua's command, not a single strange insect managed to escape from the soaring Dragon Mountain Range. Of course, after the strange insects were exterminated, many Fortune Gate's disciples were also killed. While the disciples were counting the casualties, Xiaohua collected the souls of the Fortune Gate's disciples who were killed by the strange insects. Then, he led the heavenly being and Daoist Min to the Fortune Gate's damaged Fortune Palace. Just as Xiaohua sat down, a 5-colored ray of light flew over from the distance. Xiaohua knew that it was Wen Chu returning from the Immortal Palace. Fellow Immortal Xiao. Wen Chu landed on the Fortune Gate's Fortune Gate and exclaimed in surprise, our Fortune Gate's Fortune Gate was also attacked by the strange insects? Isn't that so? Xiaohua smiled bitterly, it should have happened at the same time as the High Cloud Palace. Fortunately, my Fortune Gate's Fortune Gate has Daoist Min, otherwise, this Xiao would regret it for the rest of his life. Speaking of this, Xiaohua turned to Daoist Min and said, "Fellow Daoist, please tell me the origin of this matter." N. Daoist Min nodded and explained the origin of the matter. Similar to Xiaohua's prediction and the attack on the High Cloud Palace, the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range's disciples were also attacked by the strange insects when they were collecting spiritual herbs and elixirs. Those strange insects devoured many of the spiritual herbs and elixirs. This strange insect king is really powerful. In the end, Daoist Min said to Xiaohua, with Ai's ability, "I don't have any special methods on the hidden immortal continent. Of course, the Pangu axe should be effective, but using the Pangu axe to kill the strange insects, isn't it making a mountain out of a molehill?" "Fellow Daoist, you're wrong," Xiaohua explained. "Although it's a strange insect, the strange insect king you saw has already reached the peak of the 9th grade of origin force. Moreover, it was born from the void. The spatial laws that we have painstakingly comprehended are just natural in its eyes. When it's in danger, fellow Daoist should make a move when you need to." Next, I ask for monthly votes. If the monthly votes exceed 100, I will add more chapters. Third, I ask for recommendation support. If the recommendation exceeds 1,000, I will add more chapters. How Xiaohua went against the light to become a saint, it will all depend on everyone. The third place thanks. Chapter 4678. Yes, I understand. Daoist Yun said with a smile, "If you don't use the elixir to kill the enemy, I will still use Pangu axe in the end." Xiaohua didn't need to explain too much about why the elixir could kill the king of the strange insects. Wen Chu nodded and said, "If that's the case, whether it's setting up the 9 regions great array or facing the strange insects head-on, the price paid by the 3 continents and the 4 seas is too high. It's better to find a way to return to the Dawn Rain continent. However, we don't have to be too optimistic." Xiaohua smiled bitterly. That day, Fairy Xingyu said clearly that returning to the Dawn Rain continent from the 3 continents is tantamount to daydreaming. There's no need to consider it at all. And the masters of the Supreme Pure Palace and Jade Pure Palace can only use the reincarnation method to reach the Dawn Rain continent. Presumably, the Immortal Palace can't do it. Since the Immortal Palace can't do it, the Thunder Temple, Great Sage Hall, and Dragon Island may not have it. Alas, what a headache. Didn't Fairy Xingyu say before she left? Wen Chu asked curiously, "She left something in the moon-embracing palace that may be useful to us. Why don't you hurry and take a look?" "I naturally want to go," Xiaohua replied. "I even wanted to go as soon as I flew out of the Lingyun Side Palace. However, didn't I want to wait for you? Your 9 regions great array is related to the people of 9 regions, and it's also related to Ai's happiness." "Huh, then why don't you hurry up and give it to me?" Wen Chu raised his hand and laughed. "Yes." Xiaohua nodded and opened his mouth. Puff. A mouthful of 5-colored true qi spurted out, and the 9 regions cauldrons flew out with a majestic aura. Just when Wen Chu was about to collect it, Xiaohua exhorted again, "Fellow Immortal, remember, if you fail to set up the array, you must take it back. I was really bitten by a snake. If old man Gaochen's decree is true, without the 9 regions cauldrons, I won't even have the chance to marry Princess Xixia. Fellow Immortal, don't worry." Wen Chu said very seriously, "I will definitely put your happiness as my first priority. Once the array fails, I will immediately take back all the 9 regions cauldrons. I hope you succeed." Xiaohua loosened his grip, and Ren Wenxiu put away the Jojo cauldron. He said, "Since you've succeeded in laying down the formation, it has saved me a lot of energy. I like to take advantage of others like this. Alright, I still have to go back and familiarize myself with the 9 prefectures array diagram and the array formation secret technique. I won't be staying here any longer." Wen Chu stood up and said, "Right, you also have the 9 cauldrons United Hearts secret technique, right?" Xiaohua suddenly asked. "I presume Immortal Emperor Gochen won't be hiding anything here, right?" That's true. Wen Chu saw Xiaohua asked curiously, how did you know? If I didn't know, why would I insist on having you come to the 9 continents cauldrons this time? Xiaohua replied with a cold smile. As he spoke, Wen Chu handed over a jade eye and said with a smile, I've posted a document before. You can't let others see this jade eye. Hee, it's a pity that man proposes but God disposes. You and I are the same person. Xiaohua took the jade eyes without any pressure. After using the eye-clearing technique to look at it, he nodded and said, this secret technique is even more simplified than the one that old man Gaochen gave me. It seems like he gave me a complete one this time. Subsequently, Xiaohua made a copy of the jade eye that Immortal Emperor Gaochen gave him and gave it to Wen Chu to take away. Wen Chu came in a hurry and left in a hurry. By the time Lu Yi and the others packed up and arrived at the Fortune Dao Palace, Wen Chu had already disappeared. After Lu Yi told him about the losses in the soaring Dragon Mountain range, Xiaohua nodded and said, I presume you all know about today's battle. What this old man said earlier was not false. These strange insects are truly alien species, and the 3 mainlands have no means of restraining them. Today, it was just a small soaring Dragon Mountain range, yet our Fortune Gate lost so many disciples. In the future, if we expand the range of our defenses, won't there be more casualties? Yes, this disciple understands. Lu Yi was the first to answer. Master, please rest assured. Although we were not slow in adapting to the situation today, we were still inexperienced in dealing with these strange insects. We didn't know the strength and weaknesses of the strange insects, which was why we suffered so many losses. This disciple can guarantee that if we encounter the strange insects again, the battle situation will definitely not be like this. Sai, our Fortune Gate's disciples are so strong, yet they still can't deal with those strange insects. If it were other scholarly cultivator families or ordinary civilians, how many casualties would they suffer? Fujiwen couldn't help sighing. There were originally some benefits. However, this benefit is nothing compared to the attack of the strange insects. Xiaohua replied angrily. Then, he told her about what had happened in the Jade Lake Conference. The disciples were overjoyed when they heard that the supremes of the various sects had agreed to the development of the Dao sect in the West Ocean. As long as the ice that sealed the Dao sect was broken, the development of the Dao sect would be like a germinating seed, growing stronger and stronger. After Xiaohua invited Princess Xia and Bai An out, he took out Immortal Emperor Gaochen's imperial edict. All the disciples congratulated Xiaohua, Princess Xia, Fujiwen, and Bai An. After a short moment of liveliness, the sadness and fear in everyone's eyes lessened. Xiaohua ordered, hurry up and pack up. Lu Yi will take care of the details. Who should be sent to the West Ocean to scout? Where should our Fortune Gate take root? You don't need this old man to think too much, right? Yes, this disciple will take care of it. Lu Yi respectfully said. Jiang Hong went to the West Ocean earlier, and this disciple had already informed her of Master's decision to go to the West Ocean before Master left. Presumably, she has already made arrangements there. After we pack up, we will directly head to the West Ocean. Well done. Xiaohua smiled and took out a Peiyuan pill. This is a Peiyuan pill, I'll bestow it to you. Peiyuan pill? Lu Yi was confused, but he still respectfully received the pill and replied, many thanks, Master. Seeing Lu Yi's confusion, Wang Bianfei reminded him, senior brother, don't forget what Master said earlier. How he killed the strange insect king. See. Hearing this, Lu Yi subconsciously sucked in a breath of cold air and hurriedly explained the Peiyuan pill carefully. He kowtowed and said, disciple thanks Master for the generous gift. Get up. Xiaohua raised his hand and helped Lu Yi up. He smiled and said, don't underestimate this little Peiyuan pill. Master obtained it when he was refining qi on the Dawn Rain continent. It contains the Dawn Rain continent's mutated heaven and earth spiritual energy. If you come across any strange insects that you can't deal with or escape from, you can deal with them as much as you want. Master, can this pill be divided? Lu Yi sincerely asked. If possible, this disciple can divide this pill into several portions and give them to several senior and junior brothers. Logically speaking, it's possible. Xiao Hua nodded. However, if it's divided now, the mutated true qi will be diluted by the heaven and earth spiritual energy of the 3 continents, and it might even disappear. As for Wang Bianfei and the rest, you don't have to worry about them. Although Master doesn't have much of this type of pill, there should be enough for each of you to get one. As he spoke, Xiaohua took out a few jade bottles and gave one to each of Princess Zixia and Bianfei. After distributing the pills, Xiaohua said to Fujiwen, "There's also Shao Empire. This old man wants to move the entire Shao Empire to Shenhua continent so that those pitiful commoners can escape this calamity. Yes, if Master has the heart, this disciple will arrange it now. After all, the population of Shao Empire is already extremely terrifying. It won't be easy to move them all to Shenhua continent." AI, that's right. Master also wanted to go immediately and use my divine ability to move them. However, they are living well now. If I suddenly ask them to leave their home, they might not be willing. Therefore, Master wants to follow Princess Zixia's instructions and explain the cause of the matter to them. Then, news of the strange insects will definitely come from other places in hidden Immortal continent. At that time, Master will move them to Shenhua continent, and it will be even more natural. Master is right, this disciple understands. Fujiwen nodded and asked again, however, what about that matter? If the commoners of Shao Empire are all gone, then it will be impossible to find out the truth. It's very important to lure the monarch into a trap, but the lives of the commoners are more important. Xiaohua shook his head and said, if there is still no result by then, Master won't dare to play with them anymore. I will directly search their souls and kill whoever I see. Alright, this disciple understands. This disciple will listen to Master's orders. Fujiwen replied and retreated to the side. Bianfei, use Zhai Xinglu to inform all the cultivators of the 3 continents about the strange insects. Xiaohua muttered to himself for a moment and instructed, let them raise their vigilance and be prepared to deal with it. Yes, this disciple understands. Bianfei hurriedly replied. There is still one more important matter. Xiaohua then told them about the Fortune Gates disciples building transmission arrays in the 3 continents. When Lu Yi and the others heard this, they understood the importance of this matter. They were all beaming with joy, as if they could already see the rise of the Tao Gate. Xiaohua handed over the list of names that Thunderbolt Immortal had drafted to Lu Yi. Then, he took out the Kunlun mirror and sent out the disciples who were building the teleportation formation to Lu Yi. After the matter of the transmission arrays, Xiaohua discussed some other matters with the disciples. In the end, he said, alright, all of you can leave. Once you're done packing, you can head to the Western Sea. Yes. The disciples left the Fortune Gate Palace, leaving only Princess Zixia and the heavenly being behind. Zixia. Xiaohua smiled and said, you also go and arrange the matters in Zhai Xinglu, then wait for my news. Come with me to see Fairy Xing Yu's moon-embracing palace. This concubine understands. Princess Zixia agreed with a smile and flew out. Then, Xiaohua said to the heavenly being, fellow Daoist, stay behind as well. Follow fellow Daoist Bianfei to protect my Fortune Gates disciples as they head to the Western Sea, give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4679. Of course. The celestial being did not decline and nodded in agreement. Seeing that everything had been arranged properly, Xiaohua sat cross-legged on the jade chair. However, he did not meditate. Instead, his mind raced as he recalled what had just happened, as well as what Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji had said, and carefully calculated. Day and night had only alternated several times in the Fortune Palace when Princess Zixia arrived. Xiaohua opened his eyes and cupped his fists towards the celestial being and fellow Taoist Kuang. I'll leave the Fortune Gate's disciples to you two fellow Taoists. Rest assured, fellow Taoists. The celestial being and fellow Taoist Kuang did not get up. They merely smiled and nodded. Xiaohua waved his sleeves and swept Princess Xia up into the sky, disappearing in an instant. Dozens of days later, on the shore of the West Sea, a faint brilliance flashed in the gloomy sky. Xiaohua's figure appeared in a distorted space. He was not in a hurry to escape from the void. Instead, he first released his divine sense to take a closer look. After seeing clearly, he let out a long sigh of relief and jumped out of the void. He laughed inwardly, damn it, I didn't touch the wrong place this time. If I flew the wrong way again, Xia would laugh at me. As he spoke, Xiaohua took out the Kunlun mirror and released Princess Xia. Contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, Princess Xia looked around and did not say anything. She only asked curiously, Xiaohua, didn't you bring me to the moon-embracing palace? How did you come to the West Sea? Xiaohua looked helpless and puzzled. Xia, I want to ask you, how do you know this is the West Sea? Not the East Sea, North Sea, or South Sea? Why do I think this West Sea is no different from the other three seas? Hee, that's too simple. Do you want to know? Princess Xia asked with a smile. Xiaohua's head nodded like a chick pecking at rice. He replied repeatedly, of course, of course. I won't tell you. Princess Xia covered her mouth and laughed. All right. Xiaohua scratches his head and says with a smile, if you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Darling Xiao. Seeing that there was no one beside them, Princess Xia wasn't that easily embarrassed. She held Xiaohua's right arm and said in a low voice, actually, there's no special reason. This concubine has been used to seeing the various territories of the 3 continents and 4 seas since childhood. Whenever I see a scenery, I can roughly judge where it is. If I had known earlier, I would have let you lead the way. Xiaohua smiled as he took out a jade eye and handed it over to Princess Xia. Darling Xiao doesn't let this concubine lead the way because he cares about this concubine. Princess Xia was very understanding. This concubine understands very well. Furthermore, this concubine's flying speed is incomparable to Darling Xiao's. Only by arriving here can this concubine share Darling Xiao's burdens. Princess Xia took the jade eye ring and used her golden eye ring to examine it. Taking advantage of this time, Xiaohua looks at the vast West Sea and says with emotion, when Fairy Xingyu talked about the moon-embracing palace, I also thought it was some scenic spot in the hidden Immortal continent. It wasn't until Fairy Xingyu gave me the jade eye ring that I knew the moon-embracing palace was in the West Sea. Otherwise, even if we looked for it in the hidden Immortal continent, I'm afraid we would never find it. Of course, female cultivators are meticulous. Princess Xia returns the jade eye ring to Xiaohua and replies, Fairy Xingyu doesn't want others to enter her former residence. Naturally, she has to build the moon-embracing palace in a place that others don't know about. Moreover, the hidden Immortal continent is monitored by His Majesty with the clear sky mirror. It's not easy for Fairy Xingyu to build the moon-embracing palace. This West Sea is too big. Not to mention building one moon-embracing palace, even if there are 10 of them, they won't be discovered by others. After saying this, Princess Xia looks around and urges the cloud under her feet. She pulls Xiaohua and flies towards a place filled with smoke. Princess Xia's cloud naturally flies very slowly. Although Xiaohua is somewhat anxious, he also knows that he shouldn't rush. He only opens his illusion breaker eyes occasionally and looks at the void on his left. Princess Xia soon notices Xiaohua's strange behavior and asks in a low voice, Xiaohua, are you a bit anxious? Or are you looking for the location of the moon-embracing palace? Xiaohua nods and replies, to be honest, I'm a bit anxious. I want to quickly find the moon-embracing palace and find the way back to the Dawn Rain continent. However, when he spoke up to here, Xiaohua let out a long sigh, and his figure stopped. Sadness appears on his face. Xiaohua, what's wrong with you? Princess Xia is alarmed. She hastily holds Xiaohua's hand and asks in a low voice. Actually. Xiaohua clenches his teeth and replies, actually, it doesn't matter if we find the moon-embracing palace or not. Why? Princess Xia is even more puzzled, didn't you say? You want to find the moon-embracing palace, find the things that Fairy Xingyu left behind and find the way back to the Dawn Rain continent. Then, bring the disciples back to the Dawn Rain continent and get a lot of spiritual herbs. Xiaohua bites his lips and looks at the gloomy dark clouds. He shakes his head and says, this is just because I can't bear to disappoint the disciples. This is just a very beautiful idea of mine. Or it could be said that this is just me deceiving myself. Because Fairy Xingyu said long ago that there is no spatial meridian that can lead to the Dawn Rain continent from the 3 continents. There is a huge secret behind this. This secret is so big that even she, an immortal, doesn't dare to say it. So, what we are doing now is just a futile effort. An unprecedented war is absolutely unavoidable. And our 3 continents and 4 seas, after the war, the survivors may not even be 40%. And these are the cultivators with divine abilities. Those powerless common people, ordinary demons and sea race, may be able to survive for a period of time. As he speaks, Xiaohua points, when I was traveling through the void just now, I saw a lot of strange insects. The void is filled with a world-destroying aura. Even with the strength of the grand ascension stage of the human race, our hearts are trembling with fear. How can the other cultivators resist? Right now, the void can still allow us to pass through, but when the strange insects really attack the 3 continents, all teleportation formations and teleportation won't be able to be used. We basically know that the common people are being attacked, but I'm afraid we won't be able to rush over. I really hate it. My strength has clearly reached the peak of the 3 continents. I can clearly do something for all living beings, but even though I can kill thousands of strange insects, I can't stop this monstrous catastrophe. I've always scoffed at the saying that man can conquer the heavens. I feel that man is insignificant in the world and must comprehend the will of the heavens and the will of the earth. But now, I'd rather man can conquer the heavens. I can kill these world-destroying insects with my own strength. Xiaohua's words were a bit disordered because his heart was in chaos. Xiaohua's eyes were a bit moist because his heart was broken. These words didn't contain any heroic words, nor did they contain any ambition. In fact, there was even some dejection, some resentment, and some helplessness. But in Princess Xia's ears, it was different. At first, Princess Xia was a bit flustered because she had never seen such a weak side to a supremacy stage cultivator. If even a supremacy stage cultivator lost confidence in the matters of the world, then how could the 3 continents be saved? But seeing Xiaohua so real and so compassionate in his heart, Princess Xia's fluster gradually faded. She gazed at this man whose charm came from his heart, whose charm came from his kindness, and her heart was also intoxicated. Some people said that powerful male cultivators were the most favored by female cultivators. Some people said that powerful male cultivators were the most favored by female cultivators. Some people even said that beautiful male cultivators were the most favored by female cultivators. Princess Xia had seen countless such male cultivators in her life. However, they were all like passers-by in life, floating clouds in the sky. Princess Xia didn't have any impression of them. Only Xiaohua, this little monk, left a deep impression in her heart. Sometimes, even Princess Xia herself didn't know why she was so reluctant to part with Xiaohua. If it was fate, then it could naturally be explained. If it was interesting, then it could naturally be explained. If it was loneliness, then it could naturally be explained. However, after seeing Xiaohua, a supreme expert at the peak of the 9th level of origin energy, actually lose his Dao heart for the sake of the survival of the 3 continents. Princess Xixia finally understood that she had fallen in love with Xiao Hua not only because of his humor, his warmth, his gentleness, his kindness, his breadth of mind, and even his pettiness, but because Xiao Hua was a cultivator who lived in life. No matter how strong he was still a human. His heart was soft, and he also had perseverance. Only this kind of person could make her heart feel at ease. Xiao Hua. Princess Xixia faintly smiled. She let go of Xiao Hua's arm, stretched out her arms, and gently said, "Come, let this concubine hug you." Princess Xixia's words caused Xiao Hua to be stunned. However, when he looked at Princess Xixia's indescribably beautiful face, as well as those indescribable lines, and saw the affection in her eyes that was as deep as the sea, Xiao Hua's heart couldn't help but feel at ease. He closed his eyes, opened his arms, and hugged Princess Xixia. His mouth and nose were immersed in her softness and fragrance. The long-awaited silence came like a tide, making Xiao Hua feel like he was falling asleep. Xiao Hua. Princess Xixia hugged Xiao Hua, stroked his hair, and kissed him on the head with her red lips. She said in a low voice, "You're tired." "Yes, I'm really tired." Xiao Hua replied in a low voice, "I'm really too tired." Princess Xixia had already learned a lot of secrets from Xiao Hua. However, she still didn't know that ever since Xiao Hua was stranded in the 3 continents, other than the 100 years he spent peacefully cultivating in the West Ocean, he never went into seclusion again. Every day and every night, wasn't he running around for survival and dealing with difficult matters? The tens of thousands of years of cultivation in the heavenly prison, rather than saying that Xiao Hua was cultivating, it would be better to say that Xiao Hua spurred himself to work hard, to fight against life and death in order to not let himself sink into depression in the darkness of solitude and lose the confidence to live. After that, Xiao Hua had never told anyone about all the difficulties he faced. It was rare for him to meet 2 immortals. The feeling of being a good teacher and helpful friend temporarily made Xiao Hua's heart calm down. However, immediately after, he caused trouble in the Immortal Palace, rushed to the end of the world, and besieged the Immortal Town. Until today, although he was finally able to stay with Xixia, the 3 continents had encountered a strange insect that they couldn't deal with. How could Xiao Hua not be tired? Chapter 4680. Xiao Hua had seen and experienced the apocalypse in the ruins, and he had also saved the ruins. However, at that time, Xiao Hua didn't have much affection for the ruins, and Luhua Heavenly Devil was only one person. However, the apocalypse in the 3 continents was different. There were simply too many strange insects, and they were simply too powerful. The battle in the Lingyun Side Hall had already shown Xiao Hua the tragic fate of the 3 continents. However, he still wanted to save the people of the 3 continents with his own strength. Xiao Hua was a human Mahayana realm cultivator, and his Dao heart was the strongest in the Daoist sect. However, he had to bear the burden of the billions of people of the 3 continents, and his Dao heart wasn't enough. He knew that in the long run, his Dao heart might turn into a devil, but if he turned into a devil for the sake of the billions of people of the 3 continents, what was there to pity? What was there to pity if his Dao heart was shattered for the sake of the people of the 3 continents? Princess Xixia felt the front of her body heat up. She knew that these were the tears in Xiao Hua's eyes. Princess Xixia's nose turned sour for no reason. She put more strength into her arms and hugged Xiao Hua's head. She seemed to see the weakness behind a strong man and the dangers behind a grand ascension stage cultivator. After half a cup of tea's worth of time, Princess Xixia whispered, "Xiao Hua, take a good rest. Let your heart calm down, let your pace slow down, let me slowly catch up to you. I know I can't do anything for you, and I can't do anything for the people of the 3 continents. However, don't worry, after you rest, go save the 3 continents. I will always wait for you, and when you need to rest, come back to me." Xian Xian, Xian Xian. Xiao Hua whispered, and didn't answer. "I'm here." Princess Xia whispered, and kissed Xiaohua's hair. I'll always be here with you. After half a day, the waves of the West Sea were already monstrous, and the sky above the West Sea was already covered in rain. Under a ball of faint light, the pair of lovers hugged each other as if they could last forever. Finally, Xiaohua opened his eyes and whispered, Xian Xian, I'm going to save the 3 continents. Let me go first. N. Princess Xia replied in a low voice as she let go of Xiaohua's head. The wind quietly blew, causing Princess Xia's body to feel a bit cold. A feeling of disappointment and frustration attacked her heart. Xiaohua. Princess Xia was somewhat flustered. She didn't dare to look at Xiaohua. She whispered, Are you all right? Thank you. Xiaohua held Princess Xia's hand and replied, With you by my side, how could anything happen to me? That's good. Princess Xia's heart was filled with sweetness, and she also held Xiaohua's hand. After a short while, Princess Xia said with concern, Xiaohua, I feel that you're not only mentally exhausted, but also. Have you cultivated too quickly, and your Tao heart is somewhat unstable? Xiaohua smiled slightly and said with a nod, What you said is right. I'm just too ambitious. I want to do too much. My Tao heart is limited, and that's why it's unstable. However, since I've attained the Buddha fruit of Nanwa Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva, I'm willing to place all living beings in my Tao heart. For them. I'm willing to break my heart. Boom. High in the sky, an indescribable law was born. It was like a thunderbolt, but also like a storm. When the law fell, the wind and rain within 10,000 miles were wiped away. When the law fell into Xiaohua's body, a kind of fluctuation like boiling water was born in the space around Xiaohua. Not good. Xiaohua was startled. He hurriedly used the Fury of Thunder technique and activated the talisman left by Su Ji. Whoosh! A layer of faint silver brilliance was born from the top of Xiaohua's head. It was like flowing water that washed down. When it reached the bottom of Xiaohua's feet, it simultaneously withdrew into Xiaohua's body. The previous phenomenon disappeared in an instant. This is? Princess Xia naturally didn't know what this law meant. She looked at Xiaohua strangely, waiting for Xiaohua's explanation. However, Xiaohua only smiled slightly and didn't answer. He only looked at the gloomy rain nearby and asked, I'm done resting. Xia, accompany me to save the 3 continents. Okay. Princess Xia didn't ask any more questions. She pulled Xiaohua's hand and flew to a place. The rain stopped, the waves stopped, the clouds dispersed, the sky opened, and the stars also came out. They saw a huge round moon hanging in the sky. Xiaohua and Princess Xia also stopped. Seeing that there were no reefs in the surroundings, and then looking at the huge round moon above their heads, Xiaohua understood that this must be the location of the moon-embracing palace. Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed at the round moon. He said with a smile, Xia, when I heard the name Moon-Embracing Palace, did you think of something? Oh. What did you think of? Princess Xia was startled and asked naturally. She thought that Xiaohua thought of something amazing. However, Xiaohua's answer made Princess Xia not know whether to laugh or cry. Doesn't Fairy Xingyu have moon in her name? She and Su Ji are connected by heart. When I heard the name Moon-Embracing Palace that day, I immediately thought of Su Ji hugging Fairy Xingyu. He, Ode to the Bronze Sparrow Terrace, you know. Chi. Princess Xia's face blushed. She said with a smile, You male cultivators think dirty. This moon-embracing palace was built by Fairy Xingyu. Even if she has feelings for Senior Su Ji, she can't be so brazen in her name. Who knows? Xiaohua pinched his chin and said with a mischievous smile, Let's go in and see, won't we know? Seeing Xiaohua's strange smile, how could Princess Xia not know what Xiaohua was thinking? She pinched Xiaohua's arm and said reproachfully, how is that possible? A female immortal's palace. Speaking until here, Princess Xia understood a little. She said with a smile, Darling Xiao hasn't entered a female cultivator's palace yet? That's why you're so curious. TCH. Xiao Hua's face was full of disdain. He said, I'm already a Mahayana cultivator. What haven't I seen? He. Princess Xia didn't expose Xiao Hua and only smiled slightly. Xiao Hua flipped his hand and took out one of Fairy Xingyue's tokens. He glanced at it and activated his dermic powers, wanting to activate the restriction. Unfortunately, when his dermic powers entered the token, it was like a clay ox entering the sea. There was no reaction. Damn it, is there a special magic art? Or does it need immortal qi? Xiao Hua was stunned. He rolled his eyes and thought for a moment. It seemed that Fairy Xingyu left in a hurry that day and didn't leave too many instructions. However, after thinking for a moment, Xiao Hua immediately urged the Fury of Thunder. Where the Fury of Thunder fell, the token immediately turned into the shape of a pentagonal star. It flew out from Xiao Hua's hand and rushed into the night sky. Boom! High up in the sky, the full moon that seemed to be within reach suddenly shook violently, and a huge shadow fell down like a giant star. Moreover, the closer the shadow was to Xiao Hua, the smaller it became. However, the pressure it exerted was not small at all. The space within 1,000 li showed signs of collapsing, and even the surface of the sea had a huge crater at this moment. Boom! The shadow crashed into the pentagonal star as expected. The star shattered, and the outline of a pentagonal star appeared in the void. However, the outline of the pentagonal star was still sealed. Divine sense and the naked eye couldn't penetrate it. Roar! The shadow of the full moon suddenly disappeared. The suppressed waves of the West Sea soared into the sky like a horned dragon, rushing toward the pentagonal void outline. Whoosh! After the waves washed over, a pentagonal void portal appeared from the outline. Inside the portal, a huge full moon also appeared. Let's go! Xiao Hua didn't dare to be negligent. He pulled Princess Xia's hand and floated into the portal. Xiao Hua's figure fell into the portal. Without waiting for him to speak, Princess Xia beside him cried out happily, Xiao. Xiao Hua, are you sure? This is the moon-embracing palace? Inside the portal, it wasn't a simple space. It was a beach by the sea. The fine, soft, and even somewhat white sand was under Xiao Hua's feet. When he stepped on it, he left behind a pair of footprints. Far away from the fine white sand, layers of blue waves were surging towards Xiao Hua like a rising tide. In front of the head of the tide, bubbles mixed with strange seaweed landed on the beach. The sea surface inside the portal was different from the West Sea. There weren't any strong winds or waves. There were only fine ripples. In the distance between the sea and the sky, the sea surface was as tranquil as a woman's eyelashes. On the other side of the beach, there was a bunch of flowers piled up by the sea sand. This bunch of flowers was at least 1,000 zhang in size. There were more than 100 flowers. The roots of all the flowers were inserted into the beach, and the blooming flower buds were blooming in midair. In each flower bud, there was a strange palace hall. And these palace halls were also piled up by the sea sand. The full moon was hanging in the sky. Its splendor was like water. It shone on the beach, sprinkled on the flowers, and even sprinkled on the 100 palace halls. Under the clear moonlight, it seemed as if the sand in the sea was sparkling. No matter if it was the flowers or the palace halls, they all gave birth to a kind of strange beauty. Looking at the casually piled up palace halls that looked like children playing on the beach, Xiao Hua touched his nose. He used his finger to point at the 3 big words protruding from the flowers. He smiled bitterly and said, I can be sure that this is the moon-embracing palace. Ha! Princess Xia laughed loudly. She pulled her hand out of Xiao Hua's hand and happily jumped around on the beach. She was like a little girl who had been freed from her restraints. She was wantonly indulging in her own laughter on the beach. Chapter 4681. Looking at Princess Zixia's laughter, Xiaohua's heavy heart relaxed for no reason. He smiled and slowly walked behind Princess Zixia. On the beach, among Princess Zixia's messy footprints, there were 2 lines of firm footprints that accompanied her all the way to the front of the bouquet. Princess Zixia listened and looked at the huge bouquet. She smiled and said, "Xiaohua, do you know? When I was young, I often played beside the heavenly river. Occasionally, I would use star sand to build a small house. I even begged Mother to build a palace with sand for me to live in. I remember very clearly that Imperial Mother had promised. However, before Mother could use her divine ability to build it, I had already started the most basic cultivation. After that, I never went to the heavenly river to play again. That little house made of sand was also left in my dreams. Today, after seeing this moon-embracing palace, I finally know that I was not the only one who had such a beautiful dream when I was young. Fairy Xingyu and even more female cultivators also had such a beautiful dream." "Huh, yes." Xiaohua smiled and said, "I also didn't expect the moon-embracing palace to be like this. Xin, if you like it, I'll give you this moon-embracing palace. Since you control Star-Picking Tower, I'll give you this moon-embracing palace." "No, I don't want this." Princess Zixia smiled and shook her head. "Although I had the same dream as Fairy Xingyu. This is her dream, not mine. The palace I want. You should be the one to build it for me, right? Moreover, this moon-embracing palace contains Fairy Xingyu's thoughts. It can be considered her secret. Unlike Star-Picking Tower, other than Fairy Xingyu, no one is qualified to own this moon-embracing palace. You can't, and I can't. Presumably, this is also the reason why Fairy Xingyu gave you the secret of the moon-embracing palace in the end. Therefore, I think that after we find something useful in the moon-embracing palace, we should leave this place and seal it off. Don't let anyone come in again." Xiaohua clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Xin, you're right. This is Fairy Xingyu's palace. After she left, she didn't plan to let anyone else in. It's good that you and I can come here. After we leave, we'll seal it off and don't let anyone disturb the peace here. If you like it, I'll build a sand palace for you in the Kunlun Wonderland." "Great, great." Princess Zixia clapped with a smile. She took Xiaohua's hand and flew into the moon-embracing palace. Similar to what Xiaohua thought, the first palace they entered was empty. The moon palace was empty. Fairy Xingyu believed in Su Ji's divination skills very much. She had the idea of never returning after entering the moon palace. Therefore, when she left, she made sufficient preparations and took away everything that could be used. She did not leave anything special behind. Fairy Xingyu didn't say anything about the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua didn't know whether it was the jade eyes or something else. Therefore, although he saw that the palace was empty, he didn't dare to neglect it. Every time he passed by a palace, he used his naked eyes, divine thoughts and Dharma eyes to check it out. Princess Zixia also activated her golden eyes to help Xiaohua. After looking at more than a dozen palaces in a row, they didn't find anything. Princess Zixia couldn't help but frown and say, "Xiaohua, it seems that Fairy Xingyu took everything she could. Where are the clues she left behind?" Xiaohua was also a little anxious. After all, what he was looking for was the secret of the immortal realm. Even Fairy Xingyu didn't dare to say it out loud. Who knew where she would leave the clues? During this time, Xiaohua was also guessing in his heart. Since it was so secretive, why would Fairy Xingyu leave clues in the moon-embracing palace? He thought of a lot of possibilities. At first, he thought that Fairy Xingyu might have left the clues for him. However, at that time, Fairy Xingyu didn't know that he came from the Dawn Rain continent and didn't know him. It was impossible for her to leave such a clue for him in advance. Later, Xiaohua felt that Fairy Xingyu was deliberately showing off and wanted to leave some secrets in the moon-embracing palace. However, he laughed at himself first. Fairy Xingyu was not an ordinary female immortal, nor was she a young girl who was ignorant of the world. How could she show off? How could she leave something that could be used against Fairy Xingyu in the 3 continents? Xiaohua couldn't figure it out no matter how much he thought about it, which made Xiaohua have no idea where the clues were. He could only search inch by inch. Since the moon-embracing palace was the work of an immortal, there were many strange restrictions in many places. Xiaohua's divine thoughts couldn't reach far, and his delusion-breaker Dharma eyes could only see a space of about 100 feet. This slowed down Xiaohua's search speed. Hearing Princess Zixia's question, Xiaohua closed his delusion-breaker Dharma eyes and rested for a moment. He answered, yes, when Fairy Xingyu left that day, she didn't think of coming back. Of course, she took as much as she could. What's this? As the two of them talked, they came to another hall. Xiaohua's gaze swept around and immediately fell on a table. There was a green jade paperweight that was more than an inch long on the table. Xiaohua asked in surprise. He raised his hand and took the paperweight in his hand. The paperweight was very heavy in his hand. Obviously, it was not an ordinary item. Xiaohua hurriedly used his divine thoughts and Dharma eyes to examine it. Unfortunately, a moment later, he was disappointed again. He handed the paperweight to Princess Zixia and whispered, Zixia, help me take a look. Princess Zixia took it and looked at it for a moment. She smiled bitterly and said, I can't see anything. It seems to be a paperweight. Fine. Xiaohua said helplessly and looked away. At this time, there were more things left in this hall. In addition to the paperweight, there were also jade cups, jade plates, and other things. After looking through all the things here, Xiaohua entered another hall with disappointment. As they went deeper, more things were left behind in the hall. The two of them slowed down again. After a few days, Xiaohua and Princess Zixia finally arrived in front of a sealed hall. Looking at the thick fog in front of the hall door, Xiaohua's heart thumped wildly. Xiaohua and Princess Zixia looked at each other. Xiaohua took out the token again. This time, Fairy Xingyu's token did not produce any special changes. It was only a fist-sized star that rushed into the fog, and the hall door slowly opened. Hiss. Xiaohua's divine thoughts swept over and he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. He said in surprise, this is Xingyue's Hall of Heroes. Fairy Xingyu put all the heroes of Zhai Xinglu here. Princess Zixia looked around and saw that under the starry sky, every sculpture was emitting a valiant aura, just like their exciting lives. She couldn't help but smile and say, if Xiaohua wants to find any clues, I'm afraid it can only be found here. Xiaohua nodded. Yes, it should be so. This Hall of Heroes contains everything about the 3 continents that Fairy Xingyu searched for. What she wants to tell me must be hidden behind these sculptures. Princess Zixia wanted to explore separately with Xiaohua to improve the efficiency of the search, but she knew that even after she searched, if Xiaohua couldn't find it, he would definitely search again. She didn't discuss any strategy with Xiaohua. Her figure flashed, and she rushed into the Hall of Heroes with Xiaohua. They landed in a paradise, and she casually summoned a hero's book and slowly looked through it. Seeing that Princess Zixia was so considerate, Xiaohua couldn't help but sigh with emotion. He thought to himself, compared to flowers, compared to jade, this Xiaohua is lucky to have such a woman by my side. Xiaohua looked through the hero's book in a different way from Princess Zixia. He wasn't in a hurry to pick up the jade eyes. Instead, he released his divine thoughts and roughly looked through the entire Hall of Heroes. The Hall of Heroes here was more than 100 times larger than the Hall of Heroes in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm Star-Picking Tower. The number of sculptures and jade eyes inside was more than 100 times more. Moreover, there were many strange sculptures and jade eyes outside the borders of the 3 continents and 4 seas. Xiao Hua restrained his impulse to directly pick up those jade eyes. He sat down cross-legged, and with his palms facing the sky, he formed a karma seal with his hands. Obscure, profound, and strange karma hand phantoms rushed out of his body and landed in various parts of the Hall of Heroes like the thousand-hand guanyin. As the karma hand covered the area, countless streams of light appeared in the countless jade eyes. These streams of light flew into the air and formed a faintly discernible river of karma. As the river flowed, Princess Zixia's inspection of the jade eyes gradually slowed down until it finally stopped. The river of karma didn't have a source, and there was no end to where the river of karma went. However, as the river of karma flowed through the space where Xiao Hua was, everything in it was clear and orderly. After an unknown period of time, the river of karma suddenly trembled and collapsed into fragments that fell into different jade eyes. At the same time, Princess Zixia's still figure moved slightly, and everything returned to normal. She continued to inspect as if nothing had happened. When she looked at Xiao Hua again, his eyelashes fluttered above his tightly shut eyes. His eyes slowly opened, and they were filled with disappointment and confusion. That's strange. Xiao Hua looked at the sculpture to his left, inwardly puzzled. This Xiao used the hand of karma, bringing all of the Heroes' Pavilion's Book of Heroes into the river of karma. Although it can't be said that everything is covered, the karma within is clear. But in this karma, why don't I see the information about the realm that Fairy Xingyu mentioned? Could it be that the information about the Dawn Rain continent isn't in the Hall of Heroes? Xiao Hua muttered in his heart. His figure moved again. He raised his hand, and a dozen jade eyes on his left fell into his hand. Then, he placed them on his forehead one by one to inspect them. Of course, Xiao Hua's inspection this time was much more detailed. There were many details in the jade eyes, and he didn't miss a single word. However, he still didn't find anything. Chapter 4682. However, several months later, when Xiao Hua put down the last jade eye, he looked at Princess Zixia, whose eyes were still flashing with a faint golden light. Xiao Hua opened his mouth and said, "Zixia." "Oh, Xiao Hua. What did you find?" Princess Zixia asked hurriedly. Xiao Hua didn't answer, but asked, "How many times have you done it?" "This." Princess Zixia was slightly stunned, and then said, "The third time." "Did you find anything?" "Not yet." Princess Zixia forced a smile and said, "But it doesn't matter, I'll look again. Maybe I didn't look carefully the first 2 times and missed some places." "Put it down first." Xiao Hua sighed and said, "I think the information that Fairy Xingyu wants to say might not be in this Hall of Heroes." "Oh? Why?" Princess Zixia didn't put down the jade eye, she just closed her golden eye and rested for a while. She asked curiously. "The Hall of Heroes is where all the information about the 3 continents is recorded. According to common sense, the information about the 3 continents must be here. But the problem is that this information is very secretive and important. Even someone as strong as Fairy Xingyu doesn't dare to say it to me face to face. In that case, she can't brazenly put it in the Hall of Heroes." "Not necessarily. What is true is false, and what is false is true. Maybe there is some information hidden in a word or sentence." Princess Zixia objected. "At first, I thought so too, so I didn't dare to use any divine ability. I only used the clear eyes technique and divine thought to look at the jade eye in the Hall of Heroes twice. I am sure that I didn't miss a single word. But I didn't find anything at all." Princess Zixia nodded and said, "Then what do you mean? Put down the Book of Heroes in the Hall of Heroes first." Xiao Hua bit his lips and said, "Let's go look at the other places in the moon-embracing palace." "Okay." Princess Zixia put the jade eye in her hand back and flew out of the Hall of Heroes with Xiao Hua. Outside the Hall of Heroes, there was a rather large hall with some bookshelves and some chairs. The bookshelves were also empty, without any jade eye. Xiao Hua habitually released his divine thought to look at the bookshelves first, and Princess Zixia also flew towards the chairs in the distance. After the Hall of Heroes, Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia's search speed increased once again. They passed through one palace hall after another and gradually approached the center of the moon-embracing palace. On this day, as they walked out of the palace, they were greeted by an extremely large garden. The garden was filled with a strange fragrance, and there were many strange flowers and plants growing all over the garden. In the middle of all these flowers, there was a strange pavilion that entered Xiao Hua and Princess Zixia's eyes. This pavilion was like a hammer, but also like a flower. When Xiao Hua looked at it carefully, it looked like a jade cup. The full moon that was previously hanging on the beach was now visible, as if it was above the pavilion. When Xiao Huafei got closer, the pavilion actually looked like a large hand plucking the full moon from the sky. Moon-embracing palace. Xiao Hua cried out involuntarily. Zixia, this is the true moon-embracing palace. Not bad. Princess Zixia nodded and agreed. I've already roughly looked through all the flowers in the garden. There's nothing special about them. Most of these flowers were from the 3 continents, but a small portion of them were from the outer realm. Furthermore, these flowers are pure flowers, not some rare spiritual flowers. Good. Thank you for your hard work. Xiao Hua smiled and nodded. When he saw the moon-embracing palace, he already had a feeling that the secret he was looking for should be inside. Then, Xiao Hua urged his figure and flew towards the pavilion. Unfortunately, after flying for half a cup of tea's time, Xiao Hua passed by layers of flowers, but the pavilion in front of him was still just a pavilion. He couldn't get close at all. Although Xiao Hua's divine sense didn't detect any abnormalities, how could he not understand that this must be Fairy Xingyu's method? Xiao Hua stopped and took out Goddess Xingyu's token. Under the activation of the Fury of Thunder, another star flew out. However, to Xiao Hua's surprise, the star fell into the void. Waves of ripples appeared out of thin air, washing the space where the pavilion was. Xiao Hua tried a few more times, but he still couldn't get close to it. Damn it! Xiao Hua's eyes turned rapidly, and he turned to Princess Zixia and said, "Wait here for a moment, watch my method." Okay. Princess Zixia nodded and stopped. Rumble. Xiao Hua urged the thunder escape, and lightning flashed around his body. His figure rushed into the void like lightning. When the thunder escape reached its limit, the pavilion in the distance began to shake. Layers of phantoms were born under the moonlight, and they crashed into Xiao Hua's phantoms like water. Moreover, every time there was a collision, a strange ripple would be set off in the space. Open. When Xiao Hua felt that the space was as hard as a cliff, he roared again and urged the thunder technique again. An abnormally twisted big hand crazily grabbed at the ripples and the moonlight phantoms in front of him. Where the big hand of thunder landed, a deafening sound was heard. Boom. It was as if the Milky Way had suddenly burst, and the ripples were shattered. Countless beams of light from the stars and the moon turned into waves and fell out of the sky, rushing to the top of Xiao Hua's head and turning into a fist-sized lock. The lock rotated rapidly, and a destructive force was born from the lock. Xiao Hua had no choice. He only had the token given to him by Fairy Xingyu in his hand, and he didn't even think about it before throwing it into the lock. Gotcha! As the token fell, the lock opened and turned into 2 colorful phoenixes that flew up. At the same time, the wings of the phoenixes immediately gave off a myriad of multicolored lights. The abnormality caused by Xiao Hua's escape was immediately smoothed out, and Xiao Hua's figure also stopped. Woo-woo. Wherever the light passed, the entire garden would be swept up by a hurricane. One after another, delicate flowers would be swept up by the hurricane and fall into the wings of the colorful phoenixes. Only after the flowers were destroyed did the colorful phoenixes let out a clear cry and rush back into the pavilions. Clang! With a soft sound, the 2 small doors of the pavilion opened, and a ray of moonlight came out from the small doors and fell at Xiao Hua's feet. Let's go. Xiao Hua turned his head and waved at Princess Xixia. Then, he urged his figure to fly toward the pavilion. However, he only flew for a moment before he found something strange. He thought that Princess Xixia, who was behind him, didn't follow him at all. Moreover, when Xiao Hua took a closer look, he found that Princess Xixia was simply standing there, looking at him with concern. Her eyes didn't even move. Xiao Hua pondered for a moment. He knew that this was Fairy Xing Yu's confinement. Most likely, only people with the token could enter this pavilion. Therefore, he didn't force his way through the confinement and urged his figure to enter the pavilion. The pavilion wasn't as big as it looked from the outside, and the layout inside was also simple. Other than a jade bed that was dozens of feet in size placed in the center like a bed, there was a jade table, and 2 jade chairs placed casually beside the jade table. There was nothing else. However, on the other side of the jade bed, there was a door that was the size of a person. The sound of waves came from there. Xiao Hua didn't dare to be careless. He opened his delusion breaker eye and looked at the jade table, and the jade chairs. He even looked at the space below the jade again and again, for fear that he would miss an entrance like the one in the Legacy Realm. After looking around, Xiao Hua didn't find anything strange. He looked at the other spaces in the pavilion, and finally, his gaze fell on the door. There was a strange restriction on the door. His divine sense couldn't penetrate it, but he could hear the sound of waves. When Xiao Hua walked to the door, he looked up and down. When he lifted his foot, to his surprise, his figure easily passed through the door. Outside the door, there seemed to be a space extended out from the pavilion. As soon as Xiao Hua came out of the space, he could see fine white sand, as well as the boundless sea. However, before Xiao Hua could stand still, his body shook violently, and a bone-chilling feeling immediately emerged from the bottom of his heart. Ha! A string of bell-like sounds came from the beach in the distance. Wasn't that Princess Xixia's laughter? Xiao Hua stood there in a daze as he stared into the distance. The graceful Princess Xixia was currently pulling her hand out of the other Xiao Hua's hand and happily jumping around on the beach, as if she was a little girl who had broken free from her restraints. The other Xiao Hua had a smile on his face as he slowly walked behind Princess Xixia. On the beach, among the messy footprints of Princess Xixia, there were 2 lines of firm footprints that looked very clear. Heaven of Transformation. Illusion. Xiao Hua couldn't help but think of the illusion, Star Moon Palace, in the ruins. His slightly frightened eyes suddenly flashed with 2 strings of scarlet flames. However, just as the scarlet flames flashed in his eyes, the illusion on the beach disappeared again. Another Princess Xixia and another Xiao Hua disappeared at the same time. Only 2 rows of messy footprints were left on the beach. 2 pairs of firm footprints were left on the beach. Oh! Xiao Hua was stunned. He focused his eyes again and released his divine sense. Sure enough, the beach was still the same beach and the sea breeze was still the same sea breeze. There were no more 2 people. Phew! Xiao Hua let out a sigh of relief. He lowered his head and looked around. He saw that he was on a platform with a praying mat on it. On one side of the praying mat was a book. This book was different from the books Xiao Hua had seen before. It looked extremely old. Xiao Hua didn't rashly pick up the praying mat and book. Instead, he opened his delusion breaker eye. However, Xiao Hua was disappointed after a short moment. Because the praying mat still had some brilliance like silk, the book simply couldn't be seen with his delusion breaker eye. In other words, this book was an ordinary item. Xiao Hua picked up the praying mat and carefully looked at it. Soon after, he raised his hand and was about to pick up the book again. However, at this time, there was another ha-ha sound of laughter. Xiao Hua raised his head. Sure enough, the illusion from before was born again. Chapter 4683. This time, Xiao Hua did not deliberately disturb the illusion. Instead, he pinched his chin and looked into the distance, quietly waiting for the illusion to develop. The illusion did not last long. When Xiaohua and Princess Zixia walked to the bouquet, the illusion ended. The entire beach returned to its original calm state. I understand now. Xiaohua looked at all this thoughtfully. Fairy Xingyu must have missed Su Ji, so she set up an illusion here to record the scene of Su Ji coming to the moon-embracing palace. When Fairy Xingyu missed him, she would come and take a look. No wonder Fairy Xingyu didn't want to give the moon-embracing palace to me. This contains the feelings of a girl. How could she be embarrassed to let others know? These feelings are the proof of time. Fairy Xingyu couldn't bear to destroy them, so she left them here. If I hadn't helped Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji fulfill their long-cherished wish, how could Fairy Xingyu have let them in? If that's the case, what is recorded in this book? Thinking about this, Xiaohua raised his hand to take the book. When his fingers touched the book, a corner of the book turned into ashes with a whoosh. Ah! Xiaohua was greatly alarmed. His hand stopped, and he cried out in disbelief, This is a book used by the secular world. The moon-embracing palace was built by immortals. Xiaohua would not be surprised to see any strange things in it. However, on this platform, where Fairy Xingyu missed Su Ji, there was a book used by the secular people. Moreover, it was a book from who knew how many years ago. A book that had turned into ashes and would disappear with a touch. How could Xiaohua not be surprised? Suddenly, Xiaohua quivered. His tenacious Dao heart could not help but tremble. He finally understood what Fairy Xingyu meant. If there was no accident, the secret of the 3 continents was in this book that had turned into ashes. The secret that even Fairy Xingyu did not dare to reveal must have been recorded in the scroll for some reason that Xiaohua did not know. Since the scroll had already turned into ashes, Fairy Xingyu did not destroy it. Of course, there were other things recorded in the scroll that Fairy Xingyu could not bear to destroy with her own hands. Instead, she made use of the power of time to make everything disappear. In particular, Fairy Xingyu had said clearly that it would depend on Xiaohua's luck and magical power. If Xiaohua had used his Dharma power to pick up the scroll like he had picked up the futon, then the scroll would have been completely turned into ashes. Xiaohua would not have been able to explore the secrets inside. But even so, the entire scroll had already turned into ashes. How could Xiaohua see what was inside? Xiaohua held his breath and slowly retreated. Once he was some distance away from the scroll, his mind raced as he searched for a spell that he could use. However, after the time it took to drink a cup of tea had passed, Xiaohua's forehead began to sweat. It seemed to be a simple matter, but he didn't have the slightest clue. Moreover, he knew that since Fairy Xingyu had dared to leave the scroll here, she must have understood that if she was not proficient in the law of time and could reverse the flow of time on the scroll, who could restore a scroll from tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years ago to its original state? What should I do? What should I do? Xiaohua was burning with anxiety, his eyes fixed on the decayed scroll. Pa! Suddenly, Xiaohua raised his hand and hit his forehead. He cried out inwardly, Damn it, why am I so stupid? I can't do anything to this scroll if I leave it here. If I get it to Xinhua continent, I'll do whatever I want. Whoosh! Just as Xiaohua was getting excited, his action brought about a gust of wind. Some debris fell from the scroll again. Damn it! Xiaohua cursed and hurriedly released his mind. He carefully rolled up the pile of decayed fragments and sent them into the space. Then, Xiaohua's mind also entered the space. Xiaohua turned into Jade Archive Xiaohua and sat cross-legged in the space. At this time, the scroll was not in Xinhua continent, nor was it in the spiritual realm. It was not in any of the other spaces that had yet to take shape. Jade Archive Xiaohua raised his hand and pointed. His index finger was about to produce a dazzling light, but he stopped in an instant. He pinched his chin and whispered, In this space, I'm close to a god, but it's still impossible for me to reverse the flow of time. Moreover, what Xiaohua wanted to know was what was recorded in the scroll. He did not necessarily have to restore it. In the space, this scroll has already decayed. Any magic spell or even a wisp of wind can destroy it. But in the space, I can make it as hard as iron. Even a magic spell won't damage it, so why would I need to make such a big fuss? Thinking about this, Jade Archive Xiaohua gently raised his hands and placed them on the decayed scroll. As his palms closed, a purple mist appeared in his eyes. Ancient characters were reflected in his eyes. Yan Province's strange spirits. Ah. Jade Archive Xiaohua was slightly stunned. With a thought, another book appeared out of thin air. Wasn't it the other, Gan Province's strange spirits? Immediately, Jade Archive Xiaohua looked at the decayed Gan Province's strange spirits, while slowly opening the other book to compare. The so-called Records of the Ghosts and Monsters of Gan Province was nothing more than a collection of stories about ghosts and monsters passed down by word of mouth in Gan Province. They might have something to do with Taoism, Confucianism, or some ghosts and monsters. It was impossible to verify whether they were true or false. Moreover, this book was for people to use in their leisure time. It had no value at all. Xiaohua read more than half of it. Although the things inside were somewhat different from the ones in his hands, most of them were similar. The reason for the changes could only be because of the passage of time and the changes in the records. Seeing that he had reached the last page of Gan Province's strange spirits, Jade Archive Xiaohua suddenly stopped. This was because at the end of the decayed book, there were some small words written with an ink brush. Wasn't it left behind by Fairy Xingyu? Jade Archive Xiaohua took a deep breath, and his eyes flickered with extraordinary splendor. He read word by word, Moon-embracing palace has already begun to take shape, and Su Ji has placed his mind on finding clues to return. He would go out from time to time, and I would use my divine arts to investigate when I was bored to death. However, I still underestimated the power of that book Immortal. This divine ability actually backfired, causing me to instantly go berserk when I obtained a great secret. My body couldn't move. Su Ji returned and helped me heal. He also took out this Gan Province's strange spirits, saying that he was afraid that I would be lonely, and then bought it with 4 copper coins. I felt sweet in my heart and asked him to read it for me. This was originally an unreasonable request, but he really agreed. There were 47 stories in the book, and he read one story every day for 47 days. After 47 days, my injuries were much better and I could move again. Only then did he feel relieved and leave. I flipped through the book and sighed. If he didn't have me in his heart, how could he be so patient to accompany me? But if he had me in his heart, why couldn't he say it? He read 47 stories for me. Today, I will also write a story for him, a story that he has never heard before. A long, long time ago, there was a big mountain in the east of Gan Province. A group of people lived on the mountain. These people practiced magic and were very powerful. They had the ability to move mountains and fill seas. At the foot of the mountain, there were 6 tribes. The people of these 6 tribes were very ignorant. Not only did they not know how to cultivate, but even their lives were very difficult. Often, they did not have enough clothes to cover their bodies and food to fill their stomachs. Later, the people on the mountain occasionally saw the difficulties of these tribes and casually taught them some life skills, such as farming, fishing, hunting, etc., so that they could have the ability to survive. After a long time, some people in these tribes became ambitious and began to enslave others in order to obtain more food. However, after they controlled the entire tribe, they discovered other tribes. Thus, the tribes began to kill each other. The originally peaceful lives were disrupted. Every day, they could hear wails and cries of pain. The killing became more and more widespread. In the end, all 6 tribes at the foot of the mountain participated. Some people began to have ulterior motives, and some tribes formed an alliance to fight against other powerful tribes. The sound of killing and the smell of blood spread to the top of the mountain and affected the people's cultivation. They were very curious as to what had happened. However, when they found the reason, they were helpless. They did not know why a good thing had turned into a bad thing. Although they were very powerful, they could not change the greed of these tribes. Moreover, they also knew that if there was no good solution, these tribes would be destroyed in the end. In the end, someone came up with a solution that was not really a solution, which was to dig 5 extremely deep abysses between the 6 tribes so that the 6 tribes could not kill each other. After the abysses were dug, the 6 tribes could no longer kill each other. Moreover, as time passed, the 6 tribes had forgotten the past and thought that they were the only tribes at the foot of the mountain, and that there were only as many tribes at the foot of the mountain. I don't know if Su Ji will like this story. However, he is so dull that he will definitely just nod. Alas, it's really boring. Xiao Hua read the Jade Archive very puzzledly. To be honest, this story had neither literary talent nor suspense. Although it was written by a female immortal who was as beautiful as a flower, other than the graceful handwriting, it could not be compared to the previous 47 stories. Jade Archive Xiao Hua did not know if Su Ji had nodded and praised it back then. In any case, he had directly given Fairy Xingyue a thumbs up. However, after giving her a thumbs up, Jade Archive Xiao Hua thought about how a female immortal had actually tried her best to make up a story in order to please others. Based on this friendship alone, Jade Archive Xiao Hua was too embarrassed to give her a thumbs up. Therefore, Jade Archive Xiao Hua crossed his ring finger and gave Fairy Xingyue a middle finger. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.